Chapter 50 She Did It. _1 The two hefty men never anticipated things would escalate to this point. They were both beginning to perspire out of fear, and after glancing at each other, they saw a mutual understanding. Seizing the opportunity when the crowd wasn't paying attention, they took a few steps back in preparation to sneak away. Just as they were gearing up to make their escape, they felt a pale, delicate hand rest on each of their shoulders. The hand was barely pressing against them, but only these two hefty men knew how much force was actually being applied. Thinking of running? It's not that easy. Yang raised an eyebrow at the two men, her tone light. Don't let them get away. Catch them. The crowd immediately helped Yang restrain the two hefty men. Some even unbuckled their belts to aid in tying the men up. Bastards, we almost wronged our little boss because of you. Someone in the crowd kicked one of the hefty men forcefully. Exactly. Thank goodness our little boss is so discerning. Framing the little boss didn't matter. The important thing was they might not get to enjoy such delicious noodles in the future. People like these should spend their time reflecting behind bars. I'm going to call the police. During this severe crackdown, such deliberate provocations were deemed hooligan behavior and are punishable by law. Moreover, this disgraceful label would follow them around for a lifetime, directly impacting their families as well. Hearing this, the two hefty men panicked immediately and pleaded, "Don't call the police, we beg you all not to call the police. We promise we won't do it again. Really, we won't dare. Please give us a second chance to be better people." The hefty men were nothing like the ferocious individuals they were. People like these should spend their time reflecting behind bars. I'm going to call the police. During this severe crackdown, such deliberate provocations were deemed hooligan behavior and are punishable by law. Moreover, this disgraceful label would follow them around for a lifetime, directly impacting their families as well. Hearing this, the two hefty men panicked immediately and pleaded, "Don't call the police, we beg you all not to call the police. We promise we won't do it again. Really, we won't dare. Please give us a second chance to be better people." The hefty men were nothing like the ferocious individuals they were men. Initially, they thought Yang was bound to bite the bullet. No one expected her to fight back so beautifully. It's fair to say that this incident had completely changed the vendor's opinion of the delicate young girl. She accomplished what the adults could not. Zhu Yonghong never anticipated things would turn out this way. Her face turned pale white on the spot and her legs began to tremble. What now? What now? These two idiots will definitely give her away. Yang, this little slut, where did she come from? Even this wasn't enough to take her down. Hoping that those two idiots wouldn't rat her out, Zhu Yonghong was praying in her heart. Cold sweat formed on her forehead and spine. The police arrived quickly, taking the two hefty men back to the police station. Yang and the other vendors, as victims and witnesses, had to go along as well. Thankfully, Yang didn't have much noodle soup left to sell. After hastily packing her stall, she went to the police station along with the others. At the station, the whole incident was confessed by the two hefty men. As it turned out, Zhu Yonghong, the bun seller, was the mastermind behind everything. Learning about the truth, the other vendors couldn't help but lament. Who would have thought that young Zhu Yonghong was this kind of person? TSK. She looks decent, but she carries out actions that are inhumane. I knew from the look of that mother and daughter that they were no simple figures. How could we have such people on our street? Now that the truth surfaced, Zhu Yonghong was destined to pay for her crimes behind bars. When the police arrived at Zhu's house, Zhu Yonghong was having dinner. She had held a ray of hope deep down. The moment she saw the police, she was so scared that she dropped her chopsticks. By the time Yang left the police station, it was already 12:30 in the afternoon. Outside, a gentle breeze was blowing, and the sun was just right. Seeing such dazzling sunlight, Yang's mood lifted. Shielding her eyes with her hand, she looked up at the sun, a slight curve blooming on her lips. It feels wonderful to be young. Just like this, Yang gazed at the sun, feeling a wave of unprecedented ease. The moment Mo Baichuan stepped into the courtyard of the police station, he was captivated by the scene before him. The person in the sunlight was smiling faintly, radiant as a summer flower, bathed in golden light. A gentle breeze blew, causing her hair to dance in the air, forming a perfect curve. It was indeed a stunning scene, as if depicted in a painting. The person seemed familiar. Mo Baichuan slightly narrowed his eyes. His deep phoenix eyes were filled with darkness, his lips almost drawn into a thin line. The aura around him instantly turned cold. He remembered. This was Mu Yang, the same little rural girl who had saved him and then conveniently stole his watch. Such a good-looking face he wouldn't forget. The young girl was so pretty, it was puzzling why she had to resort to stealing. What a waste of a beautiful face. Furthermore, had she seen him? If she had seen him, why would she act so indifferent? Was it a tactic of playing hard to get? However, according to Li Xianxian's investigation, Mu Yang was already married. Since she was already married, why play hard to get? Couldn't she behave more modestly? Also, why did she steal his watch? For a moment, hundreds of thoughts ran through Mo Baichuan's mind. Just then, his assistant reminded him, "Mr. Mo, it's time for our meeting with Mr. Lin." Mo Baichuan replied, still exuding an awe-inspiring demeanor, "Let's go in." At that moment, Yang was also heading towards the door. The two of them brushed past each other. Amid the gentle breeze, Mo Baichuan took a soft sniff. It seemed he detected a pleasant scent. Faint, a bit like bamboo, yet not like orchids, but with a slight hint of plum. Mo Baichuan thought that Yang would recognize him when they brushed past each other. After all, he had once promised Yang that she could come to Beijing to find him when in difficulty. Therefore, her purpose of coming to Beijing must be because of him. However, things didn't go quite as Mo Baichuan expected. Not only did Yang fail to recognize him, but she didn't even spare him an extra glance. Time flies quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Yang's business had been thriving for these 3 days. Today, it had been raining continuously since morning. After selling off all the noodles, Yang rushed home. Rainy days were perfect for lounging at home and watching TV while munching on some sunflower seeds. But considering she hadn't yet managed to buy a TV, Yang had to scrap that plan. Yang went to the kitchen, kneaded some dough, sliced some tomatoes, apples, and bananas, and lit the oven to prepare to bake some bread and dried fruit as snacks. Just as she finished preparations, Yang Guobao, hand in hand with Gooden, came in from outside with a smile. Sister Yang. Chapter 51. Hosting a party. The stylish famous doctor from Jiangnan. Guobao, Gooden, you came. Yang turned around and smiled. Through spending several days with Yang, little Yang Guobao has made his second friend in Jinghua village, Gooden. Both of them are about the same age and they get along very well. Seeing these two little ones, Yang thought of the other children who had helped her at the entrance of the village last time, so she asked Yang Guobao, "Guobao, do you want to make more friends?" "Yes." Yang Guobao nodded. Yang nodded, "Good." Then she turned to Gooden and said, "Gooden, can you go to the village and call the other kids to come over and play? Just tell them Sister Yang is having a party at home." "A ladder?" Gooden looked at Yang in confusion. "What do you mean, climbing a ladder? Are there any ladders here?" Yang Guobao corrected, laughing, "It's not a climbing ladder, it's a party. It means a get-together. Sister is going to host a party at home. Gooden, you better go call people." "Oh." Gooden nodded in a somewhat understanding way. "All right, I'll go now." Even though he had never participated in a party and didn't know the real meaning of it, he still ran out quickly. Taking advantage of Gooden's absence, Yang quickly cleared the fire in the bread kiln and started baking the bread and sliced fruits. Yang Guobao curiously asked, "Sister, can fruit be baked too?" Yang smiled and nodded. After the fruit is baked, it becomes crispy dried fruit, which tastes very good. Having tasted the cake made by Yang Guobao couldn't help but swallow his saliva. In no time, Gooden brought the kids from the village to the family's home. "Hello, Sister Yang." Everyone greeted her very politely. When he suddenly saw so many people, Yang Guobao was a little scared. After all, He had always lived under the care of his parents and grandparents. He immediately hid behind Enai Yang, revealing only his fluffy little head. Enai Yang rubbed his head and said with a smile, "Don't be nervous, say hello to everyone." Gooden directly grabbed Yang Gobeo's hand and pulled him in front of everyone, introducing enthusiastically, "This is Penghu, this is Xiaohua, this is Xiaoming, this is Taidan, this is Guocheng." Everyone gave Yang Guobao friendly smiles. Normally, these children would be too scared to interact with Yang Guobao because of their parents' advice. After all, in their eyes, Yang Guobao was a sickly boy. However, on the way here, they were persuaded by Gooden, and now they no longer looked at Yang Guobao with any sort of disdain. Gradually, Yang Guobao was no longer shy, and quickly mingled with everyone, frolicking in the yard. Watching the yard filled with boisterous children, Enai Yang's eyes shone with a little starlight, and her eyes curved into half-moons, bright and dazzling. After a while, Enai Yang brought out the baked bread and sliced fruits, placed them on the stone table in the yard, and called out, "Gooden, Guobao, bring everyone over to eat." All the children gathered around Enai Yang, looking at the golden baked bread and beautiful dried fruit, their eyes filled with desire. Children of the 80s rarely ate snacks, and some had never even seen bread. However, faced with the delicious bread and dried fruit, the children didn't scramble for it. They were very polite and courteous to each other. Although these kids grew up in the countryside, they had all the required manners and etiquette. "Sister Enai Yang, you're amazing." "Wow, so delicious." "Thank you, Sister Enai Yang." After finishing the food, Enai Yang took out a ball of fermented dough and let the children DIY it into any shape they liked, and then bake it in the bread kiln. The children's creativity and manual skills were very good, and before long, they had shaped the dough into various small animal shapes. "Look, I made a sister." Yang Guobao excitedly held up his bread dough figure. "This doesn't look like Sister Enai Yang, mine does." Xiaohua took out her bread dough figure. "No. Mine looks more like her." Gooden also brought out his dough figure. The yard was filled with laughter and lively chatter. Enai Tsuehua also came out carrying Enai Yun to join in the fun. "Mom, take this bread." Enai Yang handed a piece of toasted bread to Enai Tsuehua. Enai Tsuehua replied with a smile, "I'm not hungry right now, you can take it and give it to the children." Just observing these innocent children, even if she did nothing, it would lift her spirits. "Auntie Hua, are you holding a little brother or little sister in your arms?" Penghu and Tai Dan curiously tiptoed to get a better look at the child in Enai Kuihua's arms. Enai Tsuehua bent halfway down to look directly at the children and said with a smile, "This is a little sister, named Enai Yun. You can call her Yun Yun." Penghu carefully asked, "Auntie Hua, can I touch her?" Enai Tsuehua nodded, "Of course you can." Penghu extended his chubby little finger and lightly poked Enai Yun's cheek. Whether by chance or not, Enai Yun burst out laughing at that moment. Penghu and Tai Dan jumped up in excitement. "She's smiling, she's smiling." Meanwhile, the Mo family villa area. Mo Baichuan, rushing back to the Mo family residence as soon as he was released from the police station, didn't even bother to change his uniform. The elderly Madame Mo anxiously sat on the sofa waiting for him. The last time she met her grandson was during New Year's. Life at the base is busier than other places. The higher your position, the busier you are. With Baichuan being so busy, Madame Mo could barely remember what her eldest grandson looked like. As soon as Mo Baichuan stepped through the front door, he was immediately hugged by Madame Mo. "Chuan Chuan, my oldest grandson. Granny has missed you so much." "Granny." Mo Baichuan also reached out and hugged Madame Mo. The sight of a grandmother and her grandson embracing each other was incredibly heartwarming. Mo Baichuan, helping Madame Mo to the couch, said, "Granny, how have you been feeling lately? A while ago I heard from Madame Wu that you haven't had much of an appetite." Madame Mo replied, "I'm okay now, but it's all thanks to Beiqing. If it weren't for him sending me pickled vegetable noodles every morning, I'd probably have starved to death." Her words about starving were far from an exaggeration. The time when Madame Mo lost her appetite, she couldn't eat anything at all. She's 89 years old now, and even the slightest discomfort could directly jeopardize her life. Mo Baichuan continued, Beiqing is thoughtful, and am grateful for his care while I was away. Madame Mo gripped Mo Baichuan's hand tightly, you all are good kids who respect your elders. By the way, how has Xiaodai been doing lately? Mo Baichuan asked. Mo Hudi's illness was nearly incurable. At the mention of this, Madame Mo's expression darkened. Still the same, Mo Baichuan continued, didn't we hear about a famous doctor from Jiangnan who may be able to cure Xiaodai's illness? Madame Mo sighed. We did send someone to invite him, but the doctor has a high-status ego and flat-out refuses to treat anyone with the surname Mo or Yang. One have no idea how our two families managed to offend him. How could this happen? Mo Baichuan frowned. Suddenly, Madame Mo seemed to remember something. That's right, Chuan, that Jiangnan doctor was recommended by Xianxia. If you have time, ask Xianxia about it. Maybe she can persuade the doctor to come. Mo Baichuan nodded. Madame Mo sighed. Xianxia is so considerate, remembering Xiaodai's illness. If that doctor from Jiangnan can indeed cure Xiaodai, then Xianxia will truly be our family's benefactor. Just then, Song Beiqing, dressed in a tailored suit, walked in through the door. Mo Baichuan immediately rose from the sofa, walked towards him with a rare smile on his dignified face, and opened his arms slightly. Beiqing. Song Beiqing hugged Mo Baichuan. Third brother, welcome back. The two embraced tightly. One was in a sharp uniform, the other in a well-tailored suit. The former was rebellious and cold, emitting an intimidating aura of an elite. The latter, standing tall, his eyes gleamed like stars, radiating an aura of a scholar. Both standing together, even without doing anything, were a sight for sore eyes, outshining the pretty boys on the silver screen. Moreover, the two brothers, just 1 year apart, have shared a deep bond from childhood, even better than that of biological brothers in other families. Chapter 52. Please come back. First update. 1. The ages of the pair of cousins were only 1 year apart. They loved each other deeply from childhood and were closer than most siblings. Third brother, are you going to stay at home a little longer this time, to spend more time with our grandmother? Song Beiqing spoke lightly. Coach Mo's eyes were also filled with anticipation as she looked at Mo Baichuan. Mo Baichuan knitted his brows slightly. I might not be able to, I came with duties this time, I will have to go back the day after tomorrow. Coach Mo was surprised for a moment. Ah? So soon? Then, she added regretfully, I was planning to get you to meet the Zhou family's daughter tomorrow. Mo Baichuan was quite old, but he hadn't even held a girl's hand yet. Coach Mo was really anxious. Every day, she thought about arranging a blind date for Mo Baichuan, but to her disappointment, he was always too busy. Hearing this, the memory of a beautiful face appeared in Mo Baichuan's mind. He fist-bumped his lips to disguise his embarrassment and said seriously, I'm still young, there's no rush. You are already 26. Still young? Coach Mo couldn't help but feel anxious. When your grandmother was at your age, your aunt was already running around. I don't care, you must meet the Zhou family's young lady tomorrow. I'm telling you, not only is she a beauty, but she's also a top-grade student who studied abroad. Anyways, your grandmother is very satisfied. The person that Coach Mo really liked was Li Xianxian. But Mo Baichuan had no interest in Li Xianxian at all. With no other choice, Coach Mo had to introduce other girls to Mo Baichuan as a backup plan. Mo Baichuan pulled Song Beiqing to his side as to take the bullet for him. Beiqing is only a few months younger than me, isn't he also a bachelor? Song Beiqing mercilessly added, I only just broke up with my girlfriend. Unlike you, a perennial bachelor, who has not even held a girl's hand before. Coach Mo nodded in agreement. What Beiqing said is right, he doesn't have a girlfriend because he hasn't found the right person yet, which is not like your case. Speaking of this, Coach Mo looked at Mo Baichuan, then continued, Tell me, what do you think about the little lady Xianxian? When Li Xianxian was mentioned, Mo Baichuan said casually, Nothing special. Granny, please tell Grandpa not to pair me with any more random people. Upon hearing this, Coach Mo's expression changed. What do you mean by random people? Xianxian is not a random person, she's a savior of our family. It's okay if you don't like her, these things take time. Plus, I've already arranged a meeting for you with the young lady from Zhou family. Tomorrow morning, you'll meet her at the cafe at the intersection of West Street. She's an overseas student, so when you go, it would be best if you bring a bouquet of flowers. Anyway, you have not yet fallen for Xianxia, so it's no problem meeting other girls. The expression on Mo Baichuan's face changed as he tried to change the topic. Beiqing, I heard that these days you have people deliver a very delicious type of noodle to grandma every morning, is that right? Song Beiqing understood the meaning behind his cousin's words and cooperated. Yes, a couple days ago Granny lost her appetite. It was thanks to those noodles that she ate something. Coach Mo frowned. Mo Baichuan, you are not allowed to change the subject. She thought she was an easy target because she's old? Mo Baichuan pretended not to understand Coach Mo's words and continued, it is such a hassle to have somebody go and buy it every morning. Why not have the noodle maker come to our house and hire him as our personal chef? Besides, eating noodles all the time might be boring and not nutritious enough. If we invite the chef to our house, he would not only be able to make fresh noodles for my grandma, but he could also cook her other dishes. If he's able to make such delicious noodles, his cooking skills must also be top tier. Upon hearing this, Coach Mo, who was very angry earlier, lit up instantly. She nodded repeatedly, yes, yes, yes. Chuan is right. She really loved those noodles. She wished she could eat them for every meal, and what Mo Baichuan said also made sense. If the chef's noodles were that delicious, his other dishes must be good too. Coach Mo was already eager to taste the dishes the chef would make. Neither of them expected Mo Baichuan to change the topic so easily and to make Coach Mo so happy. Song Beiqing had nothing but admiration for Mo Baichuan. Song Beiqing laughed. Okay, Granny, first thing in the morning, you'll have Xiaoli go and take care of it. Coach Mo nodded in agreement, then said, all right, then have Xiaoli explain it to him properly. That chef's handiwork is really exceptional. We can offer a higher salary than a conventional one. Yes, of course. Song Beiqing answered. Seeing the conversation was about to circle back around to the blind date, Mo Baichuan stood up from the sofa and said, I'll go upstairs and check on Xiao Dai. Mentioning Mo Hudi, a hint of melancholy appeared on Coach Mo's face. I'll also go take a look. Song Beiqing also went upstairs with her. Upstairs, Mo Hudi's condition wasn't good at all. Her little face was as pale as a sheet. The 14-year-old girl looked much smaller than her peers. Chuan brother, Beiqing brother. Seeing Beiqing and Mo Baichuan coming in, the little girl struggled to get up from the bed. Chapter 53 Don't Let You Go. Updated twice. _1 Mo Baichuan rushed over in large strides, lifted Mo Hudi up, and placed a pillow under her waist. Xiaodai, how are you feeling recently? Do you have any food cravings? Brother Baichuan will go and buy it for you. A faint, pale smile appeared at the corner of Mo Hudi's mouth. Brother Baichuan, I'm doing much better, don't worry. Sincere her childhood, Mo Hudi had always been considerate. Despite suffering from a serious illness, she had never complained about the pain and never shed tears. She silently endured the torment of her illness without causing trouble for those around her. Her understanding nature made people deeply concerned about her. Grandmother Mo turned around and quietly wiped away her tears. Just like performing a magic trick, Song Beiqing took out a small toy from behind him. Xiaodai, guess what is this? Mo Hudi's eyes lit up. Is it a small frog? Right, it's a little frog. Song Beiqing wound up the clockwork, placed the tin frog on a table nearby, and the frog started jumping around. Mo Hudi kept staring at the green tin frog with eyes full of longing. She wondered when she would be able to run around freely like that frog. She had almost forgotten what the outside world was like. In a moment, Mo Hudi turned her gaze towards Grandmother Mo's back. Granny. Grandmother Mo quickly dried her tears, put on a smile, pretending that nothing had happened, and turned around. What's wrong, Xiaodai? Mo Hudi then said, why hasn't Guobao come to see me these days? Due to their shared suffering from illness, Yang Guobao was Mo Hudi's best friend and they talked about everything. Grandmother Mo hesitated and then said, Xiaodai, prepare yourself mentally, you may not see Guobao for a while. Mo Hudi was startled. Why? Grandmother Mo sighed and told her about Yang Guobao's situation. Upon hearing this, Song Beicheng frowned and said, "If that's the case, Yang Changjing is being reckless. After all, Guobao is his son. How could he let a woman run rampant? If anything goes wrong, it'll be too late for regrets." Mo Baichuan said, "God sent divine doctors from among ordinary people. What if that person really cures Yang Guobao? Even though Dr. Wang is an imperial doctor, it doesn't mean he can do everything. After all, there are always people better than us and there is always a higher sky above the one we see." Grandmother Mo added, "But I heard from Guobao's grandmother that the barefoot doctor who claimed to be able to cure Guobao is a 17-year-old girl. How many 17-year-old divine doctors have you seen? Even the divine Dr. Hua Tuo only became famous in his 30s. I think she's probably a fraud. And to think that Wang Meifeng is a college student. How could a college student make such a mistake?" With a sigh, Grandmother Mo continued, "Poor Guobao. I hope Wang Meifeng realizes her mistake soon, brings Guobao back before it's too late, and doesn't let any accident happen." The Yang family was also very worried. Yang Changjing has been wanting to go to Jinghua village to bring back mother and son, Wang Meifeng and Yang Guobao. But this idea was obstructed by Zhou Suhua. People like Wang Meifeng should suffer a bit more, otherwise she will never know her mistakes. You are not allowed to go and pick her up. I want her to come back and beg us on her knees." Zhou Suhua said angrily. Yang Changjing frowned, "Mom, it's been almost a month. Meifeng didn't even bring any medicine for Guobao. Guobao needs to take his medication every 2 weeks. I am worried about his health. Anyway, you are not allowed to go." Zhou Suhua insisted. Wang Meifeng is an adult. If something happens to Guobao, she should pay for her actions. Yang Changjing was distressed, "But Guobao," Zhou Suhua continued, "if Wang Meifeng can't take it anymore, she will come back to beg us. If you go and bring her back this time, next time, won't Wang Meifeng take advantage of me, her mother-in-law? A daughter-in-law should know her place." Zhou Suhua would never allow Wang Meifeng to challenge her authority as a mother-in-law. Seeing his mother behave like this, Yang Changjing sighed helplessly and decided to follow his mother's suggestion. He hoped Wang Meifeng would realize her mistake sooner and bring Yang Guobao back. In the Ni family's house, Ni Yang got along well with the children of the village that day. From then on, every time the children heard the adults discussing anything unfavorable about Ni Yang, they would immediately defend her. Never underestimate the power of kids. Through their efforts, the village undoubtedly had fewer rumors about Ni Zuihua and her daughter, Ni Yang. Even children liked them, they couldn't be bad people. The next day, Ni Yang set up her stall as usual. At the same time, it was also her first morning selling homemade pickled vegetables. As usual, Li Gongqing was the first in line. After paying, he thought for a moment before asking, "Young boss, what time do you usually close your stall?" Ni Yang looked at him strangely. "Around 11:30, do you need anything?" Li Gongqing averted his gaze, feeling a little awkward. He then said, "Can you wait for me to come after 11 o'clock? If Ni Yang really agrees to become a chef at the Mo family, then he won't have many opportunities to see her anymore." Due to his selfishness, Li Gongqing hoped Ni Yang would refuse. Ni Yang nodded slightly, "All right." One's appearance mirrors one's heart, and Ni Yang could see Li Gongqing wasn't a bad person, so she didn't refuse him. Maybe he really needed something from her. The customers responded well to the new pickles. Almost everyone said that this morning's pickled vegetable noodles tasted even better than a few days ago. It was almost noon by 11:30. Ni Yang officially closed her stall. At the same time, Li Gongqing came cycling from a distance. Panting heavily, he ran to Ni Yang. "I'm sorry for being late, young boss." Ni Yang smiled lightly. "No problem. I just started to pack up. Please take a seat." "All right." Li Gongqing sat in front of Ni Yang. Facing Ni Yang, Li Gongqing was so nervous that his hands were sweating. He didn't know where to put them. Ni Yang broke the silence first. "Did you want to discuss something with me?" This made Li Gongqing look up at Ni Yang. He nodded and said, Yes, my name is Li Gongqing. I came over to discuss something with you." Chapter 54 Loss of Superiority, Second Update. Lu Wei looked at Anai Yang, surprised. You know English? Anai Yang replied nonchalantly, one learned a little before. Anai Yang's company had gone international in her previous life. How could she not know some English? And in her past life, she had graduated from a 211 university. But Lu Wei was shocked. Because in his heart, aside from being beautiful, Anai Yang had nothing else going for her. After all, Anai Yang was just a simple village girl from the countryside, while he was an intellectual. How could Anai Yang possibly know English? And she spoke so well, could it be a fluke? Preserving this line of thought, Lu Wei continued, Then can you come over and see if there's any difference between these two words? Anai Yang walked over, looked at the words Lu Wei was pointing out, then said, This one is pronounced admiring. One, although it and admirable are both adjectives, the former refers to things or people that inspire admiration, often serving as a predicate or a descriptive word. The latter means worthy of admiration and can be used to describe things or people, primarily as an attribute. Her tone was gentle, pure, and measured, like breezes in April, pleasing to the heart and delightful to the mind. After Anai Yang explained, Lu Wei was stunned. He couldn't help but ask, Anai Yang, what's your educational background? I have a junior high school education, Anai Yang replied calmly. I just passed high school last year, but for some reasons, one didn't go. She learned English in junior high? Lu Wei furrowed his brows. What was happening? Or, did Anai Yang just happen to know these two English words? And even if Anai Yang had indeed studied, she was a junior high school student, she couldn't possibly know more than he, a high school student? He was an excellent student and the class monitor. How could he be worse than a junior high school student? Thinking of this, Lu Wei's eyes were filled with complicated emotions. He felt quite uncomfortable. Anai Yang didn't have time to guess what a teenager in puberty was thinking. She continued, I've put the things away. I'm leaving first. Okay. Lu Wei came back to his senses, waving at Anai Yang. Goodbye. Goodbye. Lu Wei watched Anai Yang's departing figure and quietly clenched his fists. No matter. Even if Anai Yang's English was really good, she was still just a junior high school graduate. He's going to college in the future and becoming a college student. How could Anai Yang, a junior high school student, compare to himself, a future college student? And Anai Yang was still a country bumpkin. Even if he ended up with her in the future, she would be the one reaching up. Today was the day Anai Tsuehua completed her first month postpartum, so Anai Yang went to the vegetable market and bought a lot of vegetables, planning to celebrate at home tonight. Additionally, Anai Yang bought over 100 pounds of pak choi to make sour cabbage. She now used almost 15 pounds of sour cabbage every day, so she needed to stock up more, or else green vegetables would increase in price when winter comes, and the taste of the sour cabbage made in summer is more pure and tangy. On the way back, Anai Yang ran into many villagers. She clearly felt that the villagers' attitudes towards her were much friendlier than before, and their smiles now seemed more genuine. When Anai Yang got home, she cleaned and pickled the pak choi, then went to the river to catch fish, picked up some river snails, and then went home to prepare dinner. Anai Yang bought pork ribs, pig's feet, free-range chicken, tofu, cucumber, lettuce, and many other vegetables today. Enough for several days without having to buy more. Anai Tsuehua chuckled. It's not a big day, there's no need to prepare so much food. Anai Yang fed the broken lettuce leaves to the little rabbits. You finished your sitting month, and my little sister is 1 month old today. Isn't it a major event? One will prepare a few more dishes tonight to celebrate fully. Over the past month, the little rabbits had grown much fatter. They hopped around each day, adding a lot more vitality to the yard. Anai Tsuehua continued, Actually, there's no need to waste money. It isn't easy for you to earn money from your business. Anai Yang grabbed Anai Kuihua's hand, looked at her and said, Mom, we have money now. You don't have to be like before. Things will only get better from now on. In fact, Anai Tsuehua had changed a lot over the past month, not only in terms of personality, but also appearance and figure. Her skin had become much fairer, the wrinkled. This around her eyes had lightened, her chest had become firmer, and the skin on her face had clearly tightened a lot. Compared to a month ago, Enai Tsuehua seemed like a different person. At these words, Enai Tsuehua nodded, a warm light gleaming in her eyes. She knew how much it took for a mother and daughter to get to where they were today. Especially Enai Yang. Just a 17-year-old girl, shouldering all the burdens alone. From now on she, as a mother, must become strong and absolutely not hold her daughter back. Enai Yang prepared a lot of sumptuous dishes that evening. There were roasted pig's feet, chicken mushroom stew, sweet and sour pork ribs, pig's feet and kelp braised carp, mapo tofu and stir-fried cucumber with chili. The main course was ear fungus jujube porridge and toasted bread. All these dishes were prepared by Enai Yang based on the Buddhist needs. Not only were they delicious and nutritious, they were also detoxifying and beautifying. Especially the ear fungus jujube porridge, it was beneficial for freckle removal. She didn't have freckles on her face, but this dish was preventive, and it seemed that Enai Tsuehua had a few light freckles on her face. Not only Enai Tsuehua and Enai Qinggui had changed, but Enai Yang had also changed a lot. It's just that her changes were not as noticeable due to her already beautiful appearance. Chapter 55 Refusal, Part 1 Update. Enai Yang gave a slight smile. You can just call me Xiaoni, Mr. Li. Please, feel free to speak your mind. 11 Li Gongqing cleared his throat. The thing is, he relayed the offer that the Mo family had extended to hire Enai Yang. After listening, Enai Yang graciously refused. Thank you for your boss' generous offer, but I prefer RHE way I currently live and do not wish to settle into a regular job at the moment. Hearing this, Li Gongqing seemed to heave a sigh of relief as he continued, Xiaoni, you shouldn't decline so hastily. Our boss told me that your monthly salary could be 100 yuan, including meals and accommodation. You'd only need to take care of the old lattice meals each day and the rest of the time, you'd have for yourself. If you don't want to live at the MO residence, you can opt for a cash equivalent of the rent. We are also willing to provide a bicycle. A monthly wage of 100 yuan was rather high for that time. It was even more than that of white-collar workers in later years. After all, at that time, the average salary for a worker was around 80 to 90 yuan. Enai Yang was fortunate that her skills had won over the old lady MO, otherwise, who would pay a monthly salary of 100 yuan to a cook. However, Enai Yang still shook her head. I'm sorry, kindly convey to your boss that this is not about the money. Li Gongqing was taken aback that Enai Yang would still refuse the offer even after hearing the salary. He stood up, incredulously asking, Xiaoni, are you sure about your refusal? Enai Yang gave a small nod. Yes, I'm sure. Li Gongqing was at a loss for words. He had assumed that Enai Yang would surely accept the offer upon hearing a monthly salary of Lu Yuan. Keep in mind, his own monthly salary amounted to only 30 yuan. Enai Yang's salary was more than triple of his own. When he first heard the offered salary, he was quite astounded. He was even concerned that Enai Yang would look down upon his salary once she started working for the Mo family. But to his surprise, Enai Yang refused without hesitation. This was a salary of 100 yuan. This added up to 1,200 yuan in a year. Would Enai Yang be able to make 1,200 yuan by selling noodles out in the sun and rain all year round? Setting aside the monthly salary, the Mo family itself was highly respected and many people couldn't even get an opportunity to work there despite their best efforts. But Enai Yang, despite being offered a high salary and the best treatment, she still refused. Xiaoni's refusal left Li Gongqing puzzled. It appeared that this young teenage girl was far more sophisticated than he had imagined. Her allure was not just her physical appearance. Suppressing his shock, Li Gongqing stood up and replied, All right, Xiaoni, I'll relay your message to our boss. Sorry for taking your time. No problem. Enai Yang flashed a small smile. After saying goodbye to Enai Yang, Li Gongqing headed directly to the Song group. In the office, Song Beiqing was reviewing cooperation case. Song Beiqing was a very energetic person who not only founded the first private enterprise in China, but all his businesses were export-oriented, earning foreign currency. Second young master. Song Beiqing put down the document in his hand and glanced up at Li Gongqing. Why are you here? You could have taken her directly to the old lady. Li Gongqing hesitated briefly, then continued. Second young master, the noodle stall owner. She has rejected us. Refused? Song Beiqing one's brows furrowed slightly. Li Gongqing nodded. Yes. Song Beiqing asked, is she discontented with the salary or the remuneration? Li Gongqing shook his head and truthfully conveyed in Yang's words. Neither. She said that she really likes her current lifestyle and doesn't want to settle into an organized work environment. Moreover, she said, this is not a question of salary or treatment. Hearing this, Song Beiqing slightly arched his eyebrows. It seemed, based on Li Gongqing's description, that this noodle stall owner was an interesting character. However, Song Beiqing never believed that there were people in this world who didn't love money. He decided, all right then, you'll take me to her tomorrow morning. Li Gongqing was slightly surprised. Second young master? You will go personally? The second young master always had a multitude of things to deal with every day. How could he go personally to handle such matters? Song Beiqing nodded. Yes, I'll go and meet her myself. Song Beiqing wanted to personally meet the noodle stall owner. Having contested in the business world for so many years, he had never met someone who didn't care about money. Someone who was even setting up a stall, yet was claiming not to care about money. Wasn't this a joke? Hearing this, Li Gongqing was stunned for a moment, before replying, all right then, I'll make the arrangements. Song Beiqing nodded lightly. You may leave now. Li Gongqing complied and withdrew. Elsewhere, Yang continued with her routine of raking chairs and tables over to Lu Dongliang, the shop owner's place. Today was Saturday, and Lu Wei sat outside reading English on a small stool. In 1978, the college entrance examination resumed and English was formally included as a subject in 1983. Prior to that, Chinese people didn't stress much on English, so even a top student like Lu Wei found it a bit challenging, especially with inadequate prior foundation. When Lu Wei read a particular word, Yang looked up slightly, her lips parted to correct him. That word should be pronounced admirable. Her pronunciation was impeccable American English, even better than the radio broadcasters. Sir the Novel Fire. NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 56 Visit from Mr. Song to I. During dinner, Wang Meifeng and her son Yang Guobao just happened to drop by the NIS residence. Arriving just in the nick of time, Yang warmly invited them, and the mother and son duo sat down for the meal. It was Wang Meifeng's first time eating the dishes prepared by Yang. She couldn't praise her enough. Yang, your culinary skills are simply exceptional. Even better than a professional chef at a restaurant. Yang felt rather embarrassed by the glowing compliment. Wang Meifeng's trust in Yang had grown over time and she often visited the NI residence. For the past month, Yang Guobao's illness had been acting up less and less. What used to be every 3 days had now become once every week. However, Wang Meifeng was not planning to return home yet. She intended to return after 3 months and then take Yang Guobao to the city hospital for a full-body checkup. Only by returning with a medical report from the hospital would the Yang family believe what she had been through, and her grievances might well be understood. And only then could they, as mother and son, truly be accepted by the Yang family. After they finished the meal, Wang Meifeng offered to do the dishes, but Yang quickly retorted, absolutely not, Aunt Wang. You're our guest, we can't have you doing the dishes. Wang Meifeng, however, insisted, one need to return the favor. Washing a few dishes is nothing. If you refuse, I may feel uncomfortable visiting your home in the future. After such a scrumptious meal prepared by Yang, it would be unconscionable if they left a whole table full of dirty dishes for Yang to clean on her own. Wang Meifeng was not someone who lacked consideration. Seeing how determined Wang Meifeng was, Yang reluctantly agreed, all right, then let me help by drying the dishes. In the kitchen, Wang Meifeng and Yang washed the dishes. Meanwhile, Chingue was chatting with Zuehua in the living room. Looking at Yun, she smiled, This child is growing so quickly, Tsuhua. You're fortunate to have such competent and adorable daughters. Unlike me, I only have a disobedient daughter who married and moved far away. And Chenggui's eyes welled up with tears as she spoke. Eiler life had been tough. She lost her husband before turning 40, and her only daughter married into a family far away. This made it hard for them to even meet. As she got older, she thought she wouldn't be able to count on anyone. Whenever these thoughts struck her, Chenggu would feel an overwhelming sadness. Tsuhua sighed, carefully choosing her words to console Cheng. Have you ever thought about finding someone else? You're still young, you cannot possibly spend your life alone. Chenggu bitter laughed. My daughter is about to have a child. If one get another man now, won't it be a laughingstock? This era was not as progressive as the modern times. If a woman lost her husband, she'd often stay a widow for life. Upon hearing this, Tsuhua fell into a deep silence, tightly hugging the child in her arms. Words failed to escape her lips. Back in the kitchen, Wang Meifeng finished washing the last dish and looked at Yang. Thanks to the medication you provided last time, Gobeo's condition has improved tremendously. It's been over a week since he last fell ill. By the way, I forgot to ask you last time. Are there any restrictions while consuming the medication? Like what he can or cannot eat? Yang smiled. There isn't any particular dietary restriction. He just should avoid foods that can reduce the potency of the medicine, like bananas and pineapples. Although these fruits should not be eaten with traditional Chinese medicine, they were quite precious and rarely accessible, especially in rural areas. Even catching a glimpse was tough, let alone consuming them. Wang Meifeng nodded in understanding. Okay, I got it, Yang. Thank you. If it hadn't been for Yang Guobao wouldn't be where he is now. Over the past month, not only had Yang Guobao's physical health improved significantly, but his mental state and personality had also undergone a tremendous transformation compared to a month ago. When Yang Guobao was in Beijing, he only had one friend, Mo Fludai. Since Hudi fell ill and was bedridden, no other children were willing to play with Yang Guobao. Here, however, Yang Guobao made a bunch of friends through Yang. Even though Yang Guobao didn't express it, her mother knew very well that her son had been genuinely happy lately. The next day, at the morning market on Yurdist Road. Perhaps because of the change in pickled vegetables, the pickled vegetable noodles sold extremely well. It was barely 10 o'clock in the morning, and Yang was already preparing to close her stall. Just then, a black car slowly stopped by the roadside. Li Gongqing emerged from the driver's seat, circled over to the passenger side, and respectfully opened the car door. Second master, we've arrived. The car door opened to reveal a neatly clad leg stepping out. The first thing to catch the eye was a shiny pair of leather shoes. Moving upward, the man was seen wearing a tailored handmade suit, a neat tie, and his fine phoenix eyes were hidden behind gold-rimmed spectacles. He stepped out of the car, and his eyes turned towards the alleyway. Is this the place? He asked, sounding incredulous. He hadn't expected that the noodles, so highly praised by the elderly lady of the Mo family, would be from such a decrepit alleyway. Yes, second master, this is the place, Li Gongqing replied respectfully. Song Beiqing nodded slightly and said, lead the way. Right away, second master. Please follow me, Li Gongqing strode ahead. Xiaoni. Li Gongqing brought Song Beiqing to Yang's stall and called out to her. Mr. Li. Yang looked up in surprise, a faint smile appearing on her face. Yang was facing away from the sun. As she turned her head, it seemed as if her smile was the only thing left in the sunlight, illuminating like a starry river. Everything else became a mere backdrop. Song Beiqing hadn't expected that the noodle maker would be a woman, and such a young one at that. In Song Beiqing's imagination, whoever could make such delicious noodles should at least be an old craftsman with decades of expertise. Just as Song Beiqing was still recovering from his surprise, Li Gongqing introduced, Xiaoni, this is my boss. Second master, this is the noodle master, Xiaoni. The first sentence was addressed to Yang, and the latter was for Song Beiqing. Song Beiqing quickly collected his thoughts and extended his hand toward Yang. Hello, Miss Im Song. After reaching out, Song Beicheng regretted it a bit. He was accustomed to shaking hands in business environments, but this time he was dealing with such a young girl. Would she understand that shaking hands was a courtesy? At that time, China had not yet adopted the more open customs of foreign countries, and the practice of shaking hands was not widespread. If this young lady misunderstood and thought he was acting indecently, it would be quite embarrassing. Caught in this predicament, Song Beicheng didn't know whether he should retract his hand or leave it hanging midair. Just as Song Beicheng felt embarrassed, Ni Yang politely smiled and lightly shook his extended fingers. "Hello, Boss Song. You can simply call me Xiaonie." Chapter 57 Visit from Mr. Song to I. During dinner, Wang Meifeng and her son Yang Guobao just happened to drop by the NIS residence. Arriving just in the nick of time, Ni Yang warmly invited them, and the mother and son duo sat down for the meal. It was Wang Meifeng's first time eating the dishes prepared by Ni Yang. She couldn't praise her enough. "Yang, your culinary skills are simply exceptional. Even better than a professional chef at a restaurant." Ni Yang felt rather embarrassed by the glowing compliment. Wang Meifeng's trust in Ni Yang had grown over time, and she often visited the Ni residence. For the past month, Yang Guobao's illness had been acting up less and less. What used to be every 3 days had now become once every week. However, Wang Meifeng was not planning to return home yet. She intended to return after 3 months and then take Yang Guobao to the city hospital for a full-body checkup. Only by returning with a medical report from the hospital would the Yang family believe what she had been through, and her grievances might well be understood. And only then could they, as mother and son, truly be accepted by the Yang family. After they finished the meal, Wang Meifeng offered to do the dishes, but Ni Yang quickly retorted, "Absolutely not, Aunt Wang. You're our guest, we can't have you doing the dishes." Wang Meifeng, however, insisted, "One need to return the favor. Washing a few dishes is nothing. If you refuse, I may feel uncomfortable visiting your home in the future." After such a scrumptious meal prepared by Ni Yang, it would be unconscionable if they left a whole table full of dirty dishes for Ni Yang to clean on her own. Wang Meifeng was not someone who lacked consideration. Seeing how determined Wang Meifeng was, Ni Yang reluctantly agreed, "All right, then let me help by drying the dishes." In the kitchen, Wang Meifeng and Ni Yang washed the dishes. Meanwhile, Ni Qingui was chatting with Ni Cuihua in the living room. Looking at Ni Yun, she smiled. "This child is growing so quickly, Cuihua. You're fortunate to have such competent and adorable daughters. Unlike me, I only have a disobedient daughter who married and moved far away." Ni Chenggui's eyes welled up with tears as she spoke. Eiler life had been tough. She lost her husband before turning 40, and her only daughter married into a family far away. This made it hard for them to even meet. As she got older, she thought she wouldn't be able to count on anyone. Whenever these thoughts struck her, Ni Chenggui would feel an overwhelming sadness. Ni Cuihua sighed, carefully choosing her words to console Cheng. "Have you ever thought about finding someone else? You're still young, you cannot possibly spend your life alone." Ni Chenggui bitter laughed. "My daughter is about to have a child. If one get another man now, won't it be a laughingstock?" This era was not as progressive as the modern times. If a woman lost her husband, she'd often stay a widow for life. Upon hearing this, Ni Cuihua fell into a deep silence, tightly hugging the child in her arms. Words failed to escape her lips. Back in the kitchen, Wang Meifeng finished washing the last dish and looked at Ni Yang. "Thanks to the medication you provided last time, Guobao's condition has improved tremendously. It's been over a week since he last fell ill. By the way, I forgot to ask you last time. Are there any restrictions while consuming the medication? Like what he can or cannot eat?" Ni Yang smiled. "There isn't any particular dietary restriction. He just should avoid foods that can reduce the potency of the medicine, like bananas and pineapples. Although these fruits should not be eaten with traditional Chinese medicine, they were quite precious and rarely accessible, especially in rural areas. Even catching a glimpse was tough, let alone consuming them." Wang Meifeng nodded in understanding. "Okay, I got it, Yang. Thank you." If it hadn't been for Ni Yang, Yang Guobao wouldn't be where he is now. Over the past month, Not only had Yang Guobao's physical health improved significantly, but his mental state and personality had also undergone a tremendous transformation compared to a month ago. When Yang Guobao was in Beijing, he only had one friend, Mo Fludai. Since Hudi fell ill and was bedridden, no other children were willing to play with Yang Guobao. Here, however, Yang Guobao made a bunch of friends through Ni Yang. Even though Yang Guobao didn't express it, her mother knew very well that her son had been genuinely happy lately. The next day, at the morning market on Yurdist Road. Perhaps because of the change in pickled vegetables, the pickled vegetable noodles sold extremely well. It was barely 10 o'clock in the morning, and Ni Yang was already preparing to close her stall. Just then, a black car slowly stopped by the roadside. Li Gongqing emerged from the driver's seat, circled over to the passenger side, and respectfully opened the car door. "Second master, we've arrived." The car door opened to reveal a neatly clad leg stepping out. The first thing to catch the eye was a shiny pair of leather shoes. Moving upward, the man was seen wearing a tailored handmade suit, a neat tie, and his fine phoenix eyes were hidden behind gold-rimmed spectacles. He stepped out of the car, and his eyes turned towards the alleyway. "Is this the place?" he asked, sounding incredulous. He hadn't expected that the noodles, so highly praised by the elderly lady of the Mo family, would be from such a decrepit alleyway. "Yes, second master, this is the place," Li Gongqing replied respectfully. Song Beiqing nodded slightly and said, "Lead the way." "Right away, second master." "Please follow me." Li Gongqing strode ahead. "Xiaoni." Li Gongqing brought Song Beiqing to Ni Yang's stall and called out to her, "Mr. Li." Ni Yang looked up in surprise, a faint smile appearing on her face. Ni Yang was facing away from the sun. As she turned her head, it seemed as if her smile was the only thing left in the sunlight, illuminating like a starry river. Everything else became a mere backdrop. Song Beiqing hadn't expected that the noodle maker would be a woman, and such a young one at that. In Song Beiqing's imagination, whoever could make such delicious noodles should at least be an old craftsman with decades of expertise. Just as Song Beiqing was still recovering from his surprise, Li Gongqing introduced, "Xiaoni, this is my boss. Second master, this is the noodle master, Xiaoni." The first sentence was addressed to Ni Yang, and the latter was for Song Beiqing. Song Beiqing quickly collected his thoughts and extended his hand toward Ni Yang. "Hello, Miss Im Song." After reaching out, Song Beiqing regretted it a bit. He was accustomed to shaking hands in business environments, but this time he was dealing with such a young girl. Would she understand that shaking hands was a courtesy? At that time, China had not yet adopted the more open customs of foreign countries, and the practice of shaking hands was not widespread. If this young lady misunderstood and thought he was acting indecently, it would be quite embarrassing. Caught in this predicament, Song Beiqing didn't know whether he should retract his hand or leave it hanging midair. Just as Song Beiqing felt embarrassed, Ni Yang politely smiled and lightly shook his extended fingers. "Hello, Boss Song. You can simply call me Xiaoni." Chapter 58 Sky High Invitation. _1 The girl's hand was soft, delicate, and slightly cool to the touch. It left him with a strange sensation, as if it could reach his heart, causing him a hint of lightheadedness. What surprised Song Beiqing more was that this girl knew how to shake hands. Not only that, but she also understood the protocol very well. She barely grasped his hand, quickly let go after a light grip, showing courtesy without feeling awkward, as though she had undergone professional training. If she were some kind of socialite, that would be one thing. But she was just a noodle seller. After letting go, Ni Yang asked, "May first know the reason for Mr. Song's visit?" Song Beiqing slowly began, "Ms. Ni, you should be very clear about the purpose of my visit." Compared to the term Miss, comrade was more popular in this era, but since Song Beiqing was a businessman, and with his international outlook, his thinking was far ahead of most people. Ni Yang was smart. She knew what Song Beiqing meant. Her red lips slightly parted, rejecting softly, "Thank you for your kind intentions, Mr. Song. If you are here for that matter, one must apologize. One might disappoint you." Song Beiqing smiled in response. "Is Ms. Ni really not considering it anymore?" and Yang shook her head slightly. No need. Half closing his eyes, Song Beicheng softly said, I've heard that Ms. Nia's business is very good. Every morning people line up to buy your noodles. If you sell about 600 bowls of noodles every day, and each bowl is for 3 cents, then, including cost, you earn about 180 yuan per day, which is 5,400 yuan per month. Comparing this amount, it seems the 100 yuan monthly salary one offered was indeed too little. It was only after calculating that he realized how shocking the numbers were. This young girl might be of tender age, but her earning ability was anything but. No wonder she had scoffed at his previous offer of a 100 yuan monthly salary. It seemed that it wasn't about her not loving money, but rather his offer lacking in comparison to her appetite. Song Beicheng looked at Yang and continued, I apologize, Ms. Ni, for the lack of sincerity in my previous offer. Now, 1 am willing to hire you for double your current monthly income. What do you say? At these words, even Li Gongqing was astonished. Twice the income? The second master just said that Yang earns 5,400 yuan a month. So how much was double? Li Gongqing quickly calculated in his mind, and once he got the answer, he looked at Yang, his eyes full of disbelief. Yang earns 5,400 yuan a month selling noodles? And second master? He's really willing to offer over 10,000 yuan to hire a noodle cook? If second master wasn't joking, then he definitely must be crazy. No matter how rich, money couldn't withstand such reckless spending. Yang's face was still calm, as if unaffected by Song Beicheng's offer. Mr. Song, I'm sorry to disappoint you, my answer stands. Not to mention 10,000 yuan, even if it were 100,000 yuan a month, Yang wouldn't consider it. Song Beicheng's offer was indeed very tempting, but she had her own dreams and aspirations. Working for someone else for a stable wage didn't suit her. However, it must be said, Song Beicheng was being quite obstinate, willing to spend 10,000 yuan to hire a cook. The disparity between the rich and the poor was indeed seriously imbalanced regardless of the era. While some people still haggled over a cent for a bun, the wealthy were willing to spend tens of thousands to hire a cook to satisfy their palate. She didn't understand the world of the rich. However, no matter how things change, the rules of survival remain the same. Fate would not cheat those who strive and work hard. Time would give you everything you want. Yang never believed in fate, nor in anyone else. She trusted only herself. Refuse? Song Beicheng frowned slightly, a flicker of displeasure in his eyes. He continued, Ms. Ni, this salary isn't low. In all of Beijing, perhaps only 1 am willing to hire you for this sum. She wasn't satisfied with 10,000? This girl looked modest, but apparently her appetite was huge. Yang smiled softly, Mr. Song, you misunderstand, it is not a matter of money. Before Yang could finish her sentence, Song Beicheng interrupted, 20,000. There must be no one he couldn't convince with money. Yang's expression remained unchanged. Mr. Song, I've made it very clear that it is not about the money. Even if you increase the offer to 100,000 or 200,000, one will not. 50,000. Song Beicheng interjected again, his tone nonchalant as if the money was just a mere number in his eyes. Song Beicheng was usually arrogant. He even managed to negotiate with the most shrewd foreigners on the business field. How could he not convince a young girl? Men tend to have a dominant nature. They naturally love for conquest. To conquer everything. Yang smiled slightly and stated bluntly, it's pointless to keep discussing when we're not on the same page, Mr. Song. One apologize, but one have things to attend to. As soon as she finished speaking, she picked up her stool and started walking towards the neighboring shop. Ms. Ni, Song Beicheng extended his long leg and blocked Yang's path. 1 am serious right now and am not joking with you. Yang glanced up at him, and 1 am not joking either, Mr. Song. There's a principle that you ought to understand. Song Beicheng frowned slightly. What principle? Yang smiled. She stated clearly and deliberately, sincerity cannot be bought with gold. Once she had spoken, she moved past Song Beicheng and continued on her way toward the neighboring shop. Song Beicheng paused for a moment, then quickly caught up with Yang. Li Gongqing, on the other hand, was left standing in shock. He never expected Yang to refuse. That was a whole 50,000. Money that an ordinary person wouldn't be able to earn in several years. At the neighboring shop, as usual, Lu Wei was sitting in front of the door reading a book. Seeing Yang approaching, he quickly stood up, smiling, but his smile faded a bit when he saw the well-dressed man following her. He was a tall and handsome man with a distinguished demeanor. Seeing him beside Yang, Lu Wei had a feeling like they were a well-matched couple, which left him feeling inferior. But he didn't understand why such an excellent man would take a fancy to Yang. Other than being pretty, Yang didn't seem to have any other advantages. No education, no family background. Maybe their relationship wasn't what he had been thinking. Thinking this way made Lu Wei feel a little better. He walked over to Yang, reaching for the stool. Yang, you're here. Yang nodded slightly, not handing him the stool. One can do it myself. That was to say, her relationship with Lu Wei was not yet to the point where she would let him carry things for her. Lu Wei's expression changed slightly. He then asked, Yang, is this man your friend? No. Yang shook her head slightly. Chapter 59. She only wants to rely on herself. _1. Upon hearing this, Song Beiqing immediately raised his eyes to look at Yang, disbelief filling his gaze. Yang might be the first person who didn't want to be his friend. Everyone else was breaking their heads trying to curry favor with him. Even a tiny bit would do. Yet this girl flatly rejected him. Song Beiqing felt a wave of frustration stuck in his chest. He's incredibly uncomfortable. No matter the cost today, he's determined to win this defiant girl over. She's acting like this just to raise her own value, isn't she? Hell, indulge her. Song Beiqing knew he was falling into a trap, but he chose to jump right in. He's been invincible for many years, only to confront an annoyance like Yang today. After putting down the furniture, Yang continued to walk away, with Song Beiqing persistently following her. His expensive handmade suit not only attracted constant attention from others in the alley, but also appeared out of place in the grimy narrow lane. Yang, pushing her bicycle, looked at Song Beiqing. Boss Song, one have made myself clear. No matter how much money you offer, I will not agree. Now, I'm heading home, please stop following me. Yet, Song Beiqing obstinately placed his hand on the bicycle handle, impelling Yang's effort to push her bike away. He leaned slightly towards her and gazed at her. He slowly said, Miss name your own price as long as you agree. This statement was incredibly domineering. The privilege of the rich. The two stood very close, their breaths mingling, and a faint scent wafted from each other's body. It appeared as if Song Beiqing half-encircled Yang with his arm, creating an intimate scene reminiscent of a drama. The only difference was the bicycle standing in between them. Despite the slight ambiguity, the scene was beautiful and romantic, as if from a television drama. Whether in her past or present life, Yang had never been so close to a man. She frowned uncomfortably. Boss Song, you're a person of status. Maintaining propriety is crucial. Can you please restrain yourself? Song Beiqing continued to gaze at Yang, his eyes filled with scrutiny. Miss I'm only giving you one opportunity. I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. Yang pushed Song Beiqing away and coldly said, even if you offered me $1 million or 10 million, even if you handed me the entire Song family fortune, I would not consider it. Is that clear enough? The sudden force pushed Song Beiqing back enough to almost make him lose his footing. Only a pillar behind him saved him. How could a girl have such strength? Song Beiqing raised his eyes to look at Yang, then said, Miss one should have ambition and be aware of their environment. Why forsake a promising future and choose to live like this instead? His words were slightly harsh. But Yang didn't get angry. She responded, I wonder if you've ever heard the saying, trust only in yourself. So I won't accept your obstinate charity, Boss Song. One day, time will give me everything I want. Unable to quell the frustration within him, Song Beiqing insistently tried to hire her with a lucrative salary. Wasn't that an act of charity? Song Beiqing's eyes narrowed slightly, Disbelief filled his gaze as he looked at Ni Yang. These words were not ones you'd expect from a girl in her early teens. Instead, they were more reminiscent of someone who had tasted the ups and downs of life. This girl had guts and ambition. She was far different from the dainty nobles he had encountered before. Though she had thorns, but she radiated an irresistible allure. Such an interesting girl. For a moment, the depth in Song Beiqing's eyes was profound. Ni Yang, however, didn't care about what Song Beiqing was thinking. She just rode her bike and went off. By this time, Ni Tsuehua was likely waiting for her at the station. She needs to hurry to get her. Ni Tsuehua had finished her postpartum confinement, so Ni Yang wanted to take her out and about. On one hand, it was to let her see the outside world, and on the other, to get some new clothes and daily necessities for Ni Tsuehua and Ni Yun. They have been in Beijing for over a month and haven't bought new clothes yet. Because Ni Yang left home so early in the morning, she let Ni Tsuehua take the 10:30 train. When Ni Yang arrived at the station, she indeed saw Ni Tsuehua, who looked different with her newfound confidence, standing there holding the baby. "Mom," Ni Yang walked over, pushing her bike. "Yang." Ni Tsuehua smiled when she saw Ni Yang. "Mom, have you been waiting long?" asked Ni Yang. Ni Tsuehua laughed. "No, you arrived just as one got off the train." As the mother and daughter reached the bustling streets, Ni Tsuehua, seeing the flourishing business world, said, "The city is so lively, incomparable to the countryside." "Mom, do you like it here?" Ni Yang asked with a smile. "Yes," Ni Tsuehua nodded. "Who wouldn't like the city?" Ni Yang continued. "Then I'll buy a big house here in the future, and we, together with sister's family, can live happily in it." "Good," Ni Tsuehua nodded with joy. Although she knew this wish might be hard to fulfill, she still yearned for it. "Mom, please wait here for a moment, you'll park the bike. After that, we can go to the department store." "Go ahead, I'll wait here for you." Ni Yang, pushing her bike, walked to another side, passing an elegant cafe on her way. In the 80s, Beijing was already quite modernized with Western restaurants, bars, and ballrooms everywhere. The men and women on the street were also very fashionable, sometimes giving a surreal sense of being back in the future. In fact, many of the later fashion trends overlapped with that of the 80s. A sophisticated-looking woman sat in a window seat of the cafe. She had the latest trendy curly hair, meticulous makeup, arched willow leaf eyebrows, bright red lipstick, sparkling diamond earrings, a luxury watch on her wrist, and beautiful nail polish. Everything about her screamed, rich heiress. "Why isn't he here yet?" She kept looking at her watch, her brow furrowed with anxiety. She had heard that Mo3 had an odd temperament, cold and aloof, and hard to approach. It seems the rumors were true. But she relished impossible challenges. Mo3, huh? She would conquer him. A confident smile played on the heiress' face. It was only due to Madame Mo's insistence that Mo Baichuan reluctantly agreed to meet this girl. He couldn't express how much he didn't want to go. The driver who was driving the car dared not even breathe too loudly. The atmosphere in the car was so oppressive. He was afraid of unintentionally irritating Mr. Mo. Chapter 60: Domineering Counterattack. Just then, the smoothly driving car suddenly hit a large pothole. With a splash of murky dirty water flew up, jolting the inside of the car in an upheaval. Mo Baichuan, sitting in the back seat, stayed as calm as Mount Tai. On the other hand, the sudden force caused the driver to harshly knock his head on the steering wheel, seeing stars. As Ni Yen was splashed with dirty water all over, she was completely baffled. What on earth was going on today? Was this Mercury in retrograde? First, she encountered the mad Song Beiqing, and now she was covered in dirty water. She took a deep breath, telling herself to stay calm. Anger brings premature aging. She shouldn't be hard on herself. At that moment, the driver's door opened, and a young man stepped out from the car. He walked up to Ni Yen, apologized sincerely. "Comrade, are you all right? I'm really sorry, I'm not familiar with the road conditions here, one didn't know there was a pothole here, are you okay?" Ni Yen was wearing a white button short shirt and black wide-leg trousers that day. Her attire contrasted sharply with the fashionable women on the street. However, she managed to bring a lively vibe to her retro outfit. Since her trousers were black, they didn't seem to be in too bad a condition, but her shirt was a miserable sight with all the dirty water stains on it. Yet, even though she was covered in dirty water, she didn't appear disheveled, but rather uniquely elegant, giving a vibe of a college student from the Republican era, innocent and lovely. This must be the essence of beauty like jade. Seeing that the driver was truly remorseful and Yen had no intentions to pursue further, she opened her lips to speak. "I'm all right, it's just my clothes are all dirty." Before Yen could finish her sentence, the car window at the back seat gradually came down, interrupting her. "Xiao, haven't you dealt with people like this before? You still don't know how to handle this?" There was a heavy oppressiveness laced within that cold voice. He was angry. The master was angry. Xiao, the driver, felt a shiver run down his spine and quickly bowed to Yen. "I'm really sorry, comrade. Take this money and buy yourself a new outfit. We have to go now because of some urgent business." As he finished talking, he took out a large bill from his pocket, handed it to Yen, and turned around to get back into the car. Honestly speaking, Xiao had seen plenty of such situations after being with Mo Baichuan for so long. There were many socialites in Beijing who tried their best to get his attention, using all kinds of tricks. But he felt that Yen was not like them. Her eyes were pure, lacking any hint of slyness. Moreover, Yen certainly wasn't the one intentionally splashing herself with water. Xiao, being a driver, was able to distinguish who the schemer was and who the victim was in this situation. The usually calm and collected third master Mo seemed a bit impulsive today. Yen really wasn't angry initially, but that cold voice from the back seat stirred up her anger. She walked up to car door, yanking it open, retorting, "Excuse me, sir, could you please explain what you mean by people like this?" The man leisurely looked up, and in an instant, Yen's gaze was caught in a pair of deep, icy phoenix eyes. The phrase "born with a remarkable appearance" must have been coined for him. His slightly pursed lips, high nose bridge, his flawless phoenix eyes emitting a chilling coldness, each of his exquisite features seemed as if they were personally sculpted by God. Together they created a powerful and captivating aura around him. Even in the midst of a scorching summer, he could make people shiver from coldness. This was a dangerous man, and also, a familiar man. Yen's pupils contracted slightly, and she quickly recognized him. Wasn't this the mysterious man she encountered in Dam Village last time? What a small world. She really didn't expect to run into him here again today. Though slightly shocked, Yen didn't let any trace of it show on her face. Mo Baichuan's eyes were deep as he watched her, mouth parting slightly. "Do I have to spell out exactly what I mean by that kind of people?" His voice, as always, was cold. In Mo Baichuan's eyes, this accident was anything but coincidental, instead believing it was deliberately plotted by Yen. How could it be that, just like that, water splashed onto her, and specifically on his car? Besides, wasn't Yen wearing such a pure and simple outfit? Too inconsiderate? Could a married woman wear such clothes? Since she was already married, why couldn't she live out her days in peace and humility? Stick to a simple and honest life with someone else? Even if the other party was an old man, it was her choice. Also, Mo Baichuan still didn't understand why Yen stole his watch. Considering all the above, especially the fact that Yen was married, Mo Baichuan didn't think highly of her, and that's why he had spoken out of turn. Moreover, whenever he saw her, he couldn't help but lose some control over himself, even becoming jealous of that old man he had never met. It seemed Yen hadn't recognized him. She raised an eyebrow slightly and said, "Let me guess, you're saying that it's my fault one got soaked because your car splashed water on me?" It seemed she really saved a scum last time. Rude and unreasonable, filled with arrogance and self-importance, and acting as if no one else existed. She wondered which family's spoiled brat he was. Such a waste of a handsome face. Mo Baichuan looked at her with a usual frigid face. "You made the mistake of taking this path, and should never have provoked me." All Yen wanted to do was burst out laughing in her mind. Was there something wrong with this man? Did his mental hospital forget to lock the gates? Not only did he not apologize for his mistake, but he was behaving like he was a big shot. She provoked him? Interesting. Did he think he was as universally accepted as RMB? Absurd. And Yang smirked slightly. I could say the same to you. You should never have provoked me. With that, Yang reached out and grabbed Mo Baichuan's collar, pulling him hard, and her elbow struck him square in the chest. With a loud thud, Mo Baichuan was yanked off his car. Water splashed everywhere. Mo Baichuan hadn't anticipated Yang would retaliate, and he certainly hadn't expected her to pull him into a waterhole. He simply lay there in disbelief. The driver, Xiaoxiao, was also shocked. He didn't know how to react to this spectacle. The distinguished Mr. Mo was actually knocked over by a young girl. Was he dreaming? Xiaoxiao rubbed his eyes, but the scene before him remained unchanged. Yang looked down at Mo Baichuan in a condescending manner, threw a large wad of cash onto him and commented, "Hey, raise some money for you. Buy yourself new clothes. I must be leaving now." She radiated an aura of power and dominance. With these words, she sauntered off in the distance. As for such narcissistic, arrogant individuals who disregarded everyone else, they should be dealt with by an eye for an eye, making them understand the concept of not doing to others what one would not wish for oneself. Mo Baichuan watched Yang's retreating figure, his deep jet-black eyes filled with an icy coldness. It was only when Yang was out of sight that Xiaoxiao lent a hand to help Mo Baichuan up, his voice shaking as he asked, "Master, are you all right?" Mo Baichuan, with his usual icy expression, slowly got up from the puddle and said softly, "I'm fine." Chapter 61. One want all her information. Although it was only two simple words, they chilled the air like ice, spreading a cold dread. Xiaoxiao carefully helped Mo Baichuan into the back seat, barely daring to breathe, lest he inadvertently upset him again. Back to the Bo mansion, Mo Baichuan instructed, his deep voice betraying no emotion. "Yes," Xiaoxiao responded shakily, then cautiously asked, "What about Miss Zhou?" It not that he wanted to intrude, but otherwise he wouldn't know how to explain to the old lady when he got back. Miss Zhou was at the cafe, waiting for Mo Baichuan's arrival. What mess has this turned into? Mo Baichuan lightly lifted his eyes, and the rearview mirror reflected a chilling cold light. Startled, Xiaoxiao closed his mouth abruptly, not daring to utter another word. Stepping on the accelerator, the car shot off like an arrow. Mo Baichuan half leaned on the back seat, his eyes half closed. No one knew what he was thinking. Despite his silence, there was an ominous feeling of looming crisis. The car stopped at a small Western-style house. Xiaoxiao carefully got out of the car, opened the door for the passenger, but Mo Baichuan showed no intention of getting out. He just sat there. Finally, gathering his courage, Xiaoxiao said, "Master, we've arrived." Only then did Mo Baichuan turn his attention towards him. His deep eyes were completely dark as he ordered, "I want all the information about that girl today. Remember, all of it. Even her ancestors' details. And I want it by 7 o'clock tonight." He always felt that he hadn't investigated Li Xianxia thoroughly enough. Because Yang was nothing like he had imagined. Xiaoxiao stood up straight answering, "Yes." His master was harsh. The young lady had just retaliated in kind, but he was unsparing. He wouldn't even give her ancestors a break. Watching Mo Baichuan's retreating figure, Xiaoxiao nervously wiped his forehead. Yang arrived at a store, casually picked out a set of clothes to change into, paid, and then hurried to Kuihua's side. The moment Zihua saw Yang, she grabbed her hand. She was so eager, she didn't even notice Yang's change of clothes and immediately blurted, "Yang, one think I just saw your uncle." Zihua had her own family too. In her family, she had an elder brother named Dezhu who had married a transferred educated youth in his earlier years. After the policy changed, he and his wife moved to the city. Ever since Dezhu left for the city, Yang had not seen her uncle and his family. In this period, there was also little correspondence. No one knew where Dezhu had ended up. "Mom, are you sure you saw him clearly? That was really uncle?" Yang asked, frowning slightly. Zihua nodded assuredly. I saw it clearly. That was definitely your uncle. If I wasn't worried that you'd be worried about finding me when you got back, I would have chased after him. And Aitsuehua was not confused. There was no way she could mistake her own brother. Did you see which way uncle went? And Yang continued, asking. That way. And Aitsuehua pointed in a direction. I saw your uncle going through that gate. Then let's go over and check it out, and Yang said, grabbing hold of her sister's hand. Mother and daughter headed in that direction. Unlike the bustling streets, this was a residential area for factory employees. There was a guard at the gate, and anyone entering or leaving who wasn't an employee of the factory would need to register. At this time, most factories were state-owned enterprises, very formal. Workers were not only allocated dormitories but also received good benefits. It was like being a public servant in the future world. If there was a worker in one's family, it was a matter of great honor. It was even more honorable than getting into college. Yang, what is this place? And Aitsuehua asked curiously, looking at the gate. And Yang explained to Aitsuehua. After hearing the explanation, Aitsuehua exclaimed, My goodness! So, by what you're saying, your uncle is now a worker. And Yang nodded, It seems so. Aitsuehua exclaimed, Your uncle was a total simpleton when he was younger. I can't believe he's made something of himself now. At last, someone from our NI family has become accomplished. Let's go and find your uncle and aunt. And Yang continued, Don't rush in yet, Mom. Let me confirm with the gatekeeper first. Okay, and Aitsuehua replied hastily, Then you go quickly. And Yang approached the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper was very amicable and informed Yang in detail about Daza's situation. Daju had become a permanent worker here 3 years ago. He lived here with his wife Lu Wan and their daughter Lu Xianxia. Also, the gatekeeper added that Daju was usually henpecked, often acting like a timid mouse around his wife. Lu Xianxia? Yang scowled slightly. Wasn't her cousin's name Xianxia? When did it change to Lu Xianxia? Had Daju become a kept man? What's the matter, young lady? How are you related to Daju? The guard asked, curious. Yang smiled and said, He's my uncle. The guard laughed. What a surprise Daju has such a beautiful niece. He then wondered, scratching his head, how come I've never heard about Daju having a niece, especially such a beautiful one? People often say nephews resemble their uncles. But looking at Yang's delicate features, she bore no resemblance to Daza's rough and plump look. This was strange indeed. Yang offered a small smile and thanked the guard before heading back to Aitsuehua. Mom, uncle and aunt indeed live here, but let's go find your uncle and aunt, Aitsuehua said, pulling Yang inside before she could finish her sentence. Mom, wait a minute, why don't we buy some gifts to take them? Yang suggested. Aitsuehua was eager to see her brother and stubbornly pulled Yang inside. She dismissed the idea saying, Young'un, your uncle and I are siblings. We don't worry about formalities like that. We'll take care of the gifts later. I haven't seen your uncle in so many years. Aitsuehua had never thought that she would see Daju again in her lifetime. At this moment, all that she could think of was seeing her brother. The gatekeeper called out enthusiastically behind them, Young lady, Daju lives in Building 68, Unit 101. Don't get it wrong. Yang smiled and replied, Okay, thank you, sir. You're welcome. The guard waved cheerfully. With the guard's help, Yang quickly found Daza's residence. The workers' dormitory was vibrant with a strong sense of the times. There were children playing in the courtyard, adults washing clothes, chatting and laughing. It was very lively. On seeing the strangers approaching, they all threw curious looks at them. Which family do you belong to? A woman washing vegetables asked them. Aitsuehua, holding her child, smiled and said, We have come to look for Daju. I am his sister. Sister? The woman washing vegetables said in surprise, I thought Daju was an only child in his family. Where did this sister come from? Chapter 62 Our house is not a refugee camp _1 Upon hearing this, Aitsuehua didn't take the washerwoman's words to heart. instead smiling and saying, "You might be mistaken, 1 a.m. Ni Daza's sister." The washerwoman didn't say anything more, looking at Ni Tsuehua with a complicated expression. "Mom, let's go knock on the door." Ni Yang looked back towards Ni Tsuehua. "Okay." Ni Tsuehua nodded, following Ni Yang forward. After the mother and daughter left, the yard began buzzing with discussion. What do you think that was all about? Who knows? Lu Wan has always been a deep thinker. I think Ni Daju is a coward. Could he behave so scared of his wife if he wasn't a coward? Followed by a round of quiet laughter. Ni Yang led her mother and sister to the door of room 101 and softly knocked on it. The door was quickly opened. Who is it? The one who opened the door was a curious-looking girl of about 18 or 19 years old, peering at Ni Yang with a smile on her face. Ni Yang gently smiled, "Cousin Xianxia, 1 a.m. Ni Yang." Upon hearing this, the smile on Lu Xianxiang's face immediately disappeared. Her gaze passed over Ni Yang to focus on Ni Tsuehua behind her. Ni Tsuehua immediately greeted her with a beaming smile. "Xianxia, I'm your aunt." Unexpectedly, Lu Xianxia not only failed to greet them, but her face suddenly turned cold. She turned around and walked inside impatiently, shouting, "Mom! There are people looking for you." Upon seeing this, the smile on Ni Yang's face slowly faded. It seems her cousin wasn't particularly welcoming towards them. Ni Tsuehua quickly pulled Ni Yang's hand, whispering, "Xianxia is young and doesn't understand. Don't mind her, your uncle and aunt will come out in a moment." Ni Yang nodded slightly. After all, they hadn't come all this way just to see this cousin of hers. "Who is it?" Lu Wan, who was cutting vegetables in the kitchen, asked. "Don't know." Lu Xianxiang sat down on the sofa to watch TV. "Didn't you go and open the door? How can you not know?" Lu Wan wiped her hands and walked out of the kitchen. While eating sunflower seeds, Lu Xianxiang said, "Why don't you go and see for yourself?" She couldn't be bothered dealing with those poor relatives from the countryside. Lu Wan walked out with a puzzled expression on her face. "Sister-in-law, it's me, Culling." Seeing Lu Wan coming over, Ni Tsuehua immediately greeted her with a smile. "Aunt." Ni Yang followed behind, politely saying hello. Lu Wan was stunned for a moment, then finally reacted and smirked. "Oh, it's you guys. How did you find this place?" Ni Tsuehua said, "I saw my brother on the street, and then asked around until I found this place." "Oh." Lu Wan nodded and then continued, "Well, since you're here, come in and sit for a while." Ni Yang could tell that Aunt Lu Wan didn't seem very welcoming either, but Ni Tsuehua seemed oblivious, following Lu Wan into the house while exclaiming, "Sister-in-law, your home is really beautifully decorated. Rural people will always be rural people. Look at her behaving like Lu Lao Lao visiting the Grandview Garden." Lu Wan glanced at Ni Tsuehua, a hint of disdain flashing in her eyes, casually remarking, "Oh, it's nothing, it's a house allocated by the company, we just casually decorated it." Once they entered the room, Lu Wan looked at Lu Xianxiang, who was cracking melon seeds, and yelled, "All you do is crack melon seeds. Go quickly and get the sofa cover one washed yesterday." "Such a bother." Lu Xianxiang murmured with dissatisfaction, coldly retreating to get the sofa cover. Lu Wan turned around and looked at Ni Tsuehua and her daughter, smiling, "I've been too busy these days, haven't even had time to cover the sofa with a cover. I'm sorry that you two will have to stand for a while." She covers the sofa when guests come? This Lu Wan is really interesting. Ni Yang slightly raised her eyebrows, but didn't say anything. After all, Lu Wan was her elder, and it wouldn't be appropriate for her to say something out of turn. Ni Tsuehua laughed and said, "Not at all tired, just standing here for a while is fine. Don't fuss over me, coming to my brother's house feels just like being at home." Her own home? Lu Wan scoffed silently in her mind. Ni Tsuehua really didn't consider herself an outsider. This was Lu Wan's house. How was it related to Ni Tsuehua in the slightest? She wondered how they even managed to find this place. Disgusting. Lu Xianxiang took out the sofa cover and handed it to Lu Wan. "Here." Lu Wan quickly covered the sofa and then looked up at it, smiling, "Please, have a seat." Hua sat down with the child in her arms. No sooner had Hua sat down, Lu Xianxia suddenly stood up from the sofa, her eyebrows knitted and her face expressing disgust. What is this horrible smell? It's unbearable. Lu Wan also covered her nose and hinted in a meaningful tone, yes. One can smell it too. How awful. Please open the windows and let some fresh air in. Hua didn't react immediately. Instead, surprised, she said, there isn't any smell. I haven't noticed anything. She remembered Lu Wan as a gentle and virtuous woman, so she didn't give it much thought. When Lu Wan was a young educated urbanite, sent to work in a small countryside village, she was indeed gentle and virtuous. But now, she was far from the pitiful Lu Wan of those days, no longer feeling the need to suppress her own temperament to please others. In the words of Feng Shui, fortunes have reversed, and now it's Daz's turn to try to win her over. Lu Wan laughed and said, the smell is awful, perhaps it's your sense of smell that is off. Yang knew perfectly well what Lu Wan and her mother were up to, but kept silent to let Hua see their true colors and to prevent her from being deceived in the future. Having gone through so many things, it was about time Hua, as a mother, grew up. Really? Hua replied, her eyebrows knitted with doubt. Lu Wan didn't answer directly but instead stood up and said, let me pour you a cup of tea. Hua quickly grasped Lu Wan's hand. I'm not thirsty, sister-in-law, you don't have to trouble yourself. Oh. Lu Wan withdrew her hand with a shudder and sat back down on the sofa. Pouring a cup of tea was really just a casual, offhand suggestion. She hadn't actually planned to do it. Lu Wan looked at Hua and asked, so when did you three arrive in Beijing? Was it just the three of you? Where are the others? Where's Mu Jinbao? Isn't there an elderly lady at your home too? Did she come with you? Concerning this, Hua sighed helplessly, I'm divorced from Mu Jinbao, so Yingzi decided to bring us to Beijing. Hua was still speaking when Lu Wan stood up in surprise. Divorced? Yes. Hua nodded. So you came to Beijing to rely on us because you divorced Mu Jinbao? Lu Wan was taken aback, staring at Hua in shock. A divorced woman, with 2 children in tow. Was she planning to freeload off their family? Oh God. The mere thought of it made Lu Wan's scalp crawl. She was now regretting letting them in. She should never have let them step into their house. What a predicament. Getting rid of them would not be easy. Hua thought that Lu Wan was reprimanding her for not visiting them sooner. So she quickly explained, no, sister-in-law, it's a misunderstanding. We didn't know you all lived in Beijing. Otherwise Yingzi and one would have come to visit you earlier. Luckily, one bumped into my brother on the street today. Come visit earlier? What did she mean by that? At this moment, Lu Xianxia chimed in from the side mockingly, our house is not a refugee camp, you know. Lu Wan immediately turned to Lu Xianxia, pretending to scold her, what kind of language is that, young lady? She then turned back to Hua, smiling, Xianxia's just playing around, don't take it to heart. Chapter 63 Do not do unto others what you do not wish for yourself. Lu Xianxia is her own niece. As an elder relative, how could she possibly feud with her blood niece? Hua laughed and shook her head. I don't mind, it's just a child's, the sentence hanging. She continued, sister-in-law, you've been good with my brother for these past years, right? Lu Wan nodded, we're doing all right. But that's mostly thanks to my own younger brother. Otherwise, do you think Daju could have become a worker just by his own merit? If my brother hadn't pulled some strings for him, he wouldn't have accomplished much of anything. Hua gave an awkward laugh and changed the subject. Sister-in-law, are you and my brother both working at the factory now? Instead of answering, Lu Wan asked, did Yang quit school? Yes. Hua nodded and confessed with shame, it's really my failing as a mother. It's been hard on the child, Lu Wan continued, it's really a pity that Yang dropped out of school so early. What was her educational background? Although Hua wasn't sure of Lu Wan's intent, she still answered, middle school. Middle school? When Lu Xianxia heard this, she instantly felt relieved. Even though she wasn't as pretty as Yang, her educational level was much higher. She was in her senior year of high school and could take the college entrance exam next year. In the future, she would go to college and marry someone from the city. No one in the city would want to marry an illiterate like Ni Yang. By that time, she would rank above Ni Yang, and so would her children and her descendants. Ni Yang, a bumpkin, was destined only to be a green leaf accentuating the beauty of a flower. Thinking like this, Xianxia felt a great sense of superiority. Her gaze towards Ni Yang became increasingly disdainful. Lu Wan said with great regret, only middle school. One was thinking of asking my brother to find a way to get Yang a job at the factory. But now, the factory only hires those with high school education and above. How did things turn out this way? In reality, Lu Wan only wanted to cut Ni Zuihua off. Ni Yang work in the factory? Dream on. Ni Zuihua and her daughter were simply acknowledging their kinship with them because their family had flourished as factory workers. Such shamelessness. Want to take advantage of their family? No chance. Ni Zuihua laughed and said, "That's all right, sister-in-law. I appreciate your kindness." Actually, one wanted Yang to continue studying anyway. Before Ni Zuihua could finish, the door was opened. Ni Dezhu, dressed in a worker's uniform, walked in from outside, carrying a slab of meat. Seeing him, Ni Zuihua got up excitedly, "Brother!" Ni Dezhu stood there frozen, taking a moment to react. There was no joy that should come from a long-awaited reunion with family on his face, rather, a hint of distaste. "Zuihua? What are you doing here?" Seeing Ni Daz's reaction, Ni Yang knew this uncle was completely hopeless. He was no longer the Ni Dezhu from Dam Village. Ni Zuihua didn't think about it too much and quickly pulled Ni Yang closer. Yang, this is your uncle, say hello." Ni Yang obediently said, "Hello, uncle." Ni Dezhu frowned deeply. "Why did you bring the child with you?" Lu Wan crossed her arms and stood aside, adding a sentence like she was watching a play. "Zuihua divorced Mu Jinbao, so she purposely came to Beijing to seek refuge with you." Hearing this, Ni Daz's face changed instantly. "What? Divorced? How could you get divorced? Why did you get divorced? What shameless thing have you done? Mu Jinbao wants to divorce you? How did the Mu family end up with someone like you?" At these words, Ni Yang frowned slightly, simply observing Ni Dezhu. As a brother, his first reaction to his sister's divorce was not concern for whether she had been wronged in her married home, but questioning whether she had done something wrong. He even cursed his sister for being a living treasure. "This brother, he's really too much. It's not like that." Ni Zuihua immediately became panicked, crying as she spoke, "Brother, listen to me, it's not like that. One genuinely cannot stay in the Mu family any longer. You don't know, they are simply inhuman, not only wanting to abandon my oldest son, but also planning to marry Yang off to a eunuch. To make matters worse, Mu Jinbao brought back an unidentified woman who is carrying his child. How can one continue to live this life when things are like this?" Ni Dezhu was about to be angered to death by Ni Zuihua. "What? You're not capable enough to keep your own man, and now you've come here to complain to him." A cast-off shoe, not embarrassed in the slightest. He had finally started having some good days and he could not let this useless sister drag him down. Ni Dezhu furiously pointed at Ni Zuihua and shouted, "It's your own fault for being incompetent. Who made you unable to bear a son? You can't bear a son yourself and won't let him find someone else to do so? Do you want to watch the Mu family line die out?" Ni Zuihua never expected these words to come out of her own brother's mouth. It was different from the sibling recognition she had imagined. With tear-filled eyes she asked, "What about Yang? She's still so young, she's only 17. Does she deserve to be married off to a eunuch?" Ni Dezhu coldly replied, "So, what if she gets married? It's the will of the parents and the word of the matchmaker. As a girl, should she not get married and just stay at home living off someone else's earnings?" "Uncle, you're really good at distorting the truth," Ni Yang spoke with a glowing smile. "If one remember correctly, cousin Xianxia is a year older than me. The eunuch hasn't taken a wife yet. Since girls are meant to marry sooner or later, why don't you let her marry him?" "Oh, and," Ni Yang continued, Auntie hasn't given you a son until now either. Are you planning to find another woman to bear you a son? Or have you already found one? As she said this, Enai Yang turned her gaze towards Lu Wan. Enai Yang's words cut deep. Lu Wan was glaring fiercely at Enai Daju, grinding her teeth. She seemed to want to eat Enai Daju alive. No wonder she felt Enai Daju had been acting strange recently. It turns out he wanted a son. He was harboring secrets. The audacity of Enai Daju. Wait and see how she dealt with him behind closed doors later. On the other hand, Enai Daju was so angry that his face turned white. It had never occurred to him that Enai Yang would say such things. This disobedient niece, what audacity! She even dared to contradict her own uncle. But it was impossible for him to refute any part of her statement. Insolent! Insolent! One will beat you to death, you disrespectful wretch. Enai Daju directly raised his right hand, aiming a slap at Enai Yang's face. He was Yang Yang's uncle. Even if he really beat her to death, no one could do anything to him. This scene scared Lu Xianxia into covering her mouth, but her eyes gleamed with a schadenfreude. Hit her. I hope he beats this country bumpkin until she becomes disfigured. Whenever she saw Enai Yang's beautiful face, she felt nauseous. How could such a beautiful face be born on Enai Yang? Life is truly unfair. Whether in terms of background or level of education, she was 100 times better than Enai Yang. Why was she not even half as beautiful as Enai Yang? Enai Yang looked at the hand coming towards her with a calm expression on her face. She gently raised her hand, grabbed Enai Dazu's wrist and laughed. Can't handle it? Didn't you ever hear the saying, what you don't wish upon yourself, do not do unto others? You can't even handle this, so what gives you the right to force it onto me and my mother? You really are a great brother, a great uncle. Chapter 64. You won't be able to climb high someday. _1 Suddenly, the room was quiet. So quiet that only breathing could be heard. All eyes in the room fell on Enai Yang. No one expected that Enai Yang would easily grab Enai Dazu's hand, let alone that the country girl would say such words. She was as composed as if she were not a teenager, let alone a recent arrival from the countryside. Let go of me. Daju struggled, but Yang's hand seemed to be an unwavering clamp around his wrist. If he hadn't experienced it himself, Enai Daju wouldn't believe that he was less strong than this little girl. Let go of your uncle, you child, Tsuehua quickly said as she held her child and walked over to Yang. Enai Yang gave Enai Tsuehua a look, then released his hand. Enaju glared at the both of them, pointing to the door and yelled, Look at the fine daughter you've raised. No wonder the Mu family refused to accept you. Get out of my sight, one don't know you. Hearing this, Tsuehua panicked and quickly pulled on Yang's arm. Yang, quickly apologize to your uncle. Say sorry. Then she turned to Daju saying, Brother, she didn't do it on purpose, she's still young, don't mind her. Tsuehua appeared extremely humble. Her parents were deceased, and all that was left for her was this brother, As the saying goes, the eldest brother is as one's father. Whatever Daju said, whatever he did, it was for her own good. After all, no brother would harm his own sister. Lu Xianxia held Lu Wan's arm, her gaze filled with disdain, whispered, Mom, look at her groveling. Do you think she really intends to stay in our house? Tsuehua has no shame. Any reputable person would have turned their backs on Daju with such treatment, but she goes on to apologize to him. Villagers stay villagers. She has no backbone. For the sake of staying in their house, she has abandoned even her dignity. Don't worry, Lu Wan patted Lu Xianxiang's thigh. One will absolutely not let this pauper stay in our house. Lu Xianxia nodded, her face full of scornful smile. Yang, hurry up and apologize to your uncle. Seeing Yang says nothing, Tsuehua looks like she's about to cry. Enai Yang looked down at Enai Tsuehua. Mom, can't you see? They don't even want to acknowledge you as a sister, let alone welcome us. Upon hearing this, Enai Tsuehua quickly interjected, Yang, don't talk nonsense. She then turned to Enai Daju and Lu Wan, explaining, Brother, sister-in-law, that's not what Yang meant. Please don't misunderstand. Enai Yang had nothing to say. She never imagined that Suehua would still not see the true colors of Daz's family, even as things had escalated to this point. Lu Wan stepped forwards with a smile. Since we're talking about this now, one have to clarify something. Kuya, you and Daju aren't real siblings. You don't share any blood relationship. You're just an orphan who Daz's dad picked up. If you really are his sister, why wouldn't we welcome you? But you are not. And now Daju has married into the Lu family, he has even less to do with you. If you have any shame, you should leave our house. Go, before we call the police and things get ugly. Lu Wan's words were hit like a thunderbolt on a clear day, striking right at Enai Zihua. Suehua just stood there, unable to react for a long time. Enai Yang was taken aback as well. She never expected that her mother and Enai Daju did not share any blood relation. No wonder Enai Daju was such a despicable man, while Suehua had no trace of deceit. Plus, they did not share any noticeable resemblance. After learning this, Enai Yang inexplicably felt relieved. It took a moment for Enai Suehua to look up at Enai Daju, and then, disbelief colored her tone. Brother, Enai Daz's expression gradually went calm. Lu Wan is right, I'm not your brother, you're nothing but an unwanted wild child. Leave now and don't come back pretending to be family. Brother, Enai Zihua was reluctant to accept this reality and stared at Enai Daju. I told you, I'm not your brother. When will you get it? Enai Daju glared at Enai Zihua. Don't think I don't know what you're planning. You think you can freeload off my family? Dream on. Enai Zihua clung onto Enai Daz's arm, weeping. Brother, tell me this isn't true. You're my brother, right? You're my brother. Enai Daju pushed Enai Zihua away roughly. Have you no shame? How could you still insist on this after what I've said? Can't you understand? The sound of their quarrel drew a lot of attention. Soon, a crowd surrounded them. What's going on? Who knows? We just got here. No matter the era, there will always be rubbernecks. Seizing the moment, Lu Wan shouted loudly. Look at her. Have you ever seen such a shameless person? Our Daju is an only child, his parents died long ago. He doesn't even have a sister. This woman is trying to exploit Daju because they grew up in the same village. Now that Daju has a job and is making money, she's claiming to be his relative. We can't even get her to leave. Yeah, I thought it was strange too. Daju is an only child, yet this woman insists she is his sister. So she's a con artist. I was thinking about it too. She doesn't look like Daju at all. My God. How can there be such a shameless person in the world? Listening to the murmurs around her, Enai Yang looked at Enai Daju and Lu Wan, her red lips parted slightly as she said word by word. Remember this, you look down on me now, but one day you won't be able to reach me. Although her tone was calm, it was imbued with an inexplicable power that resonated deeply. The crowd looked at each other, their eyes reflecting shock. Though she was just a young girl, she gave off an inexplicable pressure. With that, Enai Yang held her little sister in one hand and pulled Enai Zihua with the other. Mom, let's go. Enai Zihua followed behind Enai Yang, dazed and lost. Lu Wan laughed at Enai Yang's retreating figure, sneering, a country bumpkin talking big, aren't you afraid of spraining your waist? If you're really that capable, why did you have to beg us today? You're embarrassing yourself. Lu Xianxia also giggled. Exactly, if she's so capable, why did she even come beg us today? Too high to reach her? She really thinks she's something else. Disgusting. What would a country bumpkin like Enai Yang be capable of? Maybe she'd only end up cleaning streets in the city. Maybe she would not even qualify for that. The lower class will always be the lower class. Enai Yang led Enai Zihua and her little sister out of the workers' compound. All the way, Enai Zihua seemed to have lost her soul, Enai Daz's icy words echoing in her ears. She was 36 and had just heard about her past from her brother's mouth. For a moment, it was hard to digest this information. Was she really adopted? Where are her biological parents now? Chapter 65 Take action to teach a lesson. Enai Zihua was curious about who her real parents were. So was Enai Yang. Because in her past life, she remembered foreigners coming to Dam Village in search of their relatives. They were well-dressed and driving a car, attracting a lot of attention. But by then, Ni Zihua had already died, and Ni Yang was confined at home by God. She didn't know much about the outside world and didn't know whether those people looking for relatives were related to Ni Zihua or not. Was Ni Zihua also abandoned because of the preference for boys over girls? Or was there some other hidden story? Ni Yang frowned slightly. The mother and daughter walked together. When they passed by the guard, he warmly asked, "How come you came out so quickly? Did you find Ni Daju?" Ni Yang smiled and said, "We found the wrong person." The guard scratched his head. "I was wondering how Ni Daju, the only child in his family, had a sister." "So you found the wrong person." Considering Ni Qihua's condition, Ni Yang found a restaurant to have a meal while consoling her mother. After ordering, Ni Yang poured into Hua a glass of water. "Mom, don't be sad. Those kinds of people are not worth it. That kind of brother, it's better not to recognize." But Ni Zihua nodded with red eyes, but her eyes were filled with sadness. Ni Yang sighed, continued, "Mom, even if Ni Daju doesn't recognize you, you still have me and my sister. Don't worry, one day I will make them regret what they did today." As she spoke, Ni Yang's eyes overflowed with self-confidence, surging with radiance. Ni Zihua tightly held Ni Yang's hand and nodded. "Yes, Mama is not sad. Mama is not sad at all." Ni Yang was right. Ni Daju was absolutely ruthless in dealing with things. If she still thought about this brother, then she would be a fool. In the future, she and Ni Yang will work hard to live a good life together and won't let anyone ridicule them anymore. Ni Yang continued, "Then you should smile. You know, a smile can shorten 10 years of life." Looking at such a sensible daughter, Ni Zihua showed a smile. "That's right." Ni Yang smiled slightly. "Mom, in the future, we don't need to be sad for someone unimportant, just live our lives well. The most important thing is to live in the present. Let the past be the past." But Ni Zihua nodded. After eating, the mother and daughter went to stroll in the department store with the child. This was Ni Qihua's first time shopping in such a high-end mall, her eyes full of curiosity. At this time, the department stores were all state-owned, so the salespeople were quite arrogant, often looking at people with disdain. After all, working in a state-owned company was considered a guaranteed job, which most people couldn't reach. In the future, the customer is king. But at this time, it was the salesperson who was king. The customer had to look at their faces. Seeing Ni Yang and Ni Zihua dressed in average clothes, and with a child, these salespeople didn't take them seriously. The answers to their questions were dismissive, showing an extreme impatience. Because these people were obviously country bumpkins from the countryside. Ni Yang didn't mind. She took Ni Zihua and chose clothes from one counter to another. "Mom, I think this one suits you." Ni Yang picked up a matching skirt suit and handed it to Ni Zihua. It's a stylish suit, a floral plaid shirt on top and a black skirt below, with a subtle floral pattern on the skirt. Ni Zihua quickly waved her hands to refuse. "It's for young girls like you, not suitable for me." Ni Yang smiled and said, "Which young girl would wear this? Besides, you're not old. Go try it on. This suit really suits you." Ni Yang pushed Ni Zihua towards the fitting room. Just then, a sales assistant who was standing nearby walked up to them, pointing and ordering, "You can't try on this dress. If you try it on, you have to buy it." Hearing this, Ni Zihua immediately put the dress down, scared. "Let's not try it. Let's not try it, Yang. Let's go." Ni Yang isn't someone easy to bully. After all, in her previous life, she owned and managed over 100 restaurants and carried an aura of assertive composure. Ni Yang smiled at the sales assistant. "Can't try? Can you show me the rule in this store that specifically states this dress cannot be tried on? Also, where is the rule that says if you try on something you must buy it? Or do you mean this department store is owned by your family and you can make up such rules as you like?" Ni Yang was smiling as she spoke, but the sales assistant couldn't detect any humor in her expression. How odd. Although she was just a teenager, her formidable presence felt like a giant ship prevailing against winds and currents. Ni Yang's lips slightly parted as she said, "Please fetch your supervisor now. I want to know how your supervisor normally trains employees." Perspiration broke out in a cold sweat on the sales assistant. She never expected Yang to confront her like this. The usually sharp sales assistant had completely misread Yang. If their superiors found out about today's incident, she would certainly lose her secure position. She had thought Yang was just an easy-to-bully hillbilly, but it turned out she was tougher than the spoiled city girls. "Let's go, Yang, let's leave." Zihua stuttered, her voice trembling with fear. Yang turned to Zihua, reassuring her softly, "Don't worry, Mom, everyone is equal now." Zihua had just arrived from the countryside, carrying an innate sense of insignificance where she felt she was always a step below others, no matter where she was. Yang secretly made up her mind to help her mother get rid of these obsolete habits and learn to be truly independent and strong. This is why today's incident definitely needed to be properly resolved, so her mother could face her own worthiness. Seeing Zihua so scared, a flicker of contempt ignited in the sales assistant's heart. Despite Zihua being an unsophisticated country bumpkin, who could ignore the fact she had such a formidable daughter? Knowing when to rein in during the troubled times, the sales assistant quickly changed her tune. "Ladies, one apologize for the misunderstanding just now. This dress can indeed be tried on. Please, go ahead." Yang looked at the sales assistant, her tone even and calm. "I want you to apologize to my mother now." Her tone was subtle, yet resounding, allowing no room for dispute. "Apologize?" The sales assistant was taken aback, looking at Yang incredulously. She was expected to apologize to a country bumpkin? How was that possible? But when she met Yang's clear, icy gaze, she quickly capitulated. Feigning respect, she turned to Zihua. "I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, ma'am. Please forgive me." Worried that Yang would not be satisfied, she even gave a deep bow. Zihua was dumbfounded to see the sales assistant actually apologizing to her. She responded somewhat dazedly, It's okay." With the apology and the bow given, Yang decided not to stoop to the sales assistant's level. In the first place, Yang just wanted to peacefully help Zihua buy some suitable clothes without stirring up trouble. But it was the sales assistant who had ignited the dispute. If she didn't fight back, they might think she was a pushover. Yang picked up the dress and guided Zihua to a nearby fitting room. "Mom, I will wait for you outside." Zihua responded helplessly, "You child." The entire scene had been witnessed by a tall and imposing figure. Going up from the same tall figure, a man in a black suit was revealed. He was wearing a black hat that shrouded his features, making his chiseled jawline the only visible part of his face. The man exuded an aura of mystery and prestige. Chapter 66, driven by the times, directed by the overall situation _1. The man just stood there, the corner of his mouth lifting into a light smile. Originally, he thought this mother-daughter duo would definitely be at a disadvantage facing the aggressive salesgirl. To his surprise, a girl who looked only about 16 or 17 years old would have such a strong counterattack. Every word, every sentence, left him dumbfounded and deeply impressed. Many city-bred girls wouldn't necessarily have her audacity. Just then, a stocky middle-aged man with a beer belly approached from behind, stood in front of the man, and respectfully said, "This way, please." The man slowly withdrew his gaze and took a step forward. Although he moved casually, his manner radiating an immense presence. Regardless of where he was, he existed like a king. As Yang waited by the fitting room for Zihua, she suddenly noticed a gaze, both measuring and authoritative, looking her way. Yang glanced back, only to see a tall, imposing figure. With a stature as towering as a jade tree, even his silhouette was enough to command awe and respect. Being new to Beijing, she didn't recognize such a high-ranking figure in society. Maybe she had made a mistake. Yang casually withdrew her gaze and didn't give it any further thought. About 5 minutes later, Zihua emerged from the fitting room. Because it was her first time wearing a skirt, she seemed particularly awkward, constantly tugging at the hemline. Yang looked at her emerging mother and felt a momentary daze. Indeed, clothes make the man. With this outfit on, Enai Tsuehua seemed like a completely different person. Her skin was naturally fair, and she had peach blossom eyes that were very similar to Enai Yang's. Added to the dietary and medicinal treatments of the past month which had faded the freckles and wrinkles on her face, she looked like she was in her late 20s. Where did she resemble a 36-year-old woman? Seeing Enai Yang's stunned expression, Enai Tsuehua nervously said, Yang, is it really ugly? I'll take it off right away. Turning around, Enai Tsuehua was about to head back into the fitting room. Wait, Mom. Enai Yang immediately stopped her mother. What's wrong? Enai Tsuehua looked back, confused. Enai Yang led Enai Tsuehua in front of a mirror. Take a look yourself. When Enai Tsuehua saw the reflection in the mirror, she was shocked. She had never imagined she could have a day like this. Everyone has a love for beauty. Even Enai Tsuehua, a married woman, was no exception. At that moment, she found herself overcome by complex emotions. In all the years of her marriage, this was the first time she wore such a beautiful dress. It truly looked very stunning. Even more stunning than the red wedding dress she wore on her wedding day. Yang, is this really me? Enai Tsuehua asked nervously, grasping Enai Yang's hand. Mom, if it's not you, who could it be? Enai Yang responded, You look really stunning in this dress. Enai Tsuehua stood in front of the mirror, examining her reflection up and down, then said, It's beautiful, yes, but it might not be very practical for getting work done. Enai Tsuehua was a practical woman, always considering the finer details. Enai Yang laughed and said, Do you think we're still in Dam Village? We don't have to toil in the fields anymore. What heavy work could there possibly be? We're buying this dress. Enai Tsuehua looked around the upscale shop with hesitation. This place is so fancy, the dress must be expensive, right? You're working hard to earn money. Let's just forget about it. Enai Yang casually replied, Money is meant to be spent, otherwise it's just paper. Plus, it's not that expensive. Learning from previous experiences, the salesgirl managed to hide her facial expressions well, even though she still didn't believe the mother and daughter could afford such a dress. She simply said, This dress costs 28 yuan. 28 yuan might just be enough to buy a pound of beef in future. But in this era, it could cover 2 months of rent. A common worker's monthly wage is only 28 yuan. Upon hearing this, Enai Tsuehua turned pale with fright. So expensive? Forget it. Forget it. The saleswoman knew this would happen. Contempt gradually appeared in her eyes, and she said impatiently, This is the latest style from Guangguan. Of course it's a bit pricey with such high-quality material. If you don't want it, I'll put it away. 2 paupers. They can't afford clothes but still strut around here like big shots. Disgusting. Enai Yang gave a faint smile. Well, take this one, wrap it up. The saleswoman didn't expect Enai Yang would suddenly say such a thing. The contempt in her eyes quickly turned to astonishment. Wrap it up? Is she boasting or serious? Before the saleswoman could react, Enai Yang casually pointed at a few clothes they had just looked at and said, Well, also take this one and this one. Wrap them all together. You want all of them? The saleswoman nervously swallowed. Enai Yang nodded slightly. Yes. Yang, why are you buying so many? Enai Tsuehua quickly tried to stop Enai Yang. Enai Yang laughed and said, We can't have you wearing the same skirt every day, can we? Enai Yang had a keen eye for fashion. All the clothes she had just picked out suited Enai Tsuehua perfectly. But I don't need so many. Besides, these clothes are too expensive. One to have clothes. A single dress costs 28 yuan, so all these clothes must cost nearly 100, right? The thought of it alone makes my heart ache, Enai Tsuehua remarked. Enai Yang continued, It's not that much, it's only 4 items including this dress. The clothes they brought from Dam Village were all old and patched up. They were obviously unsuitable for now, so Enai Yang went ahead and bought Enai Tsuehua 4 new outfits. Besides that dress, the other 3 were everyday clothes. But, Enai Tsuehua was about to say something else, but Enai Yang gently pressed her shoulder and said, Mother, no more buts, we're no longer in Dam Village. Our lives are going to get better, and we can definitely afford a few pieces of clothing. The saleswoman next to them made a complete attitude flip. asking them very respectfully, "Do you want me to wrap them up for you now?" Yang glanced at her. "Wrap it? All right, please wait a moment." The saleswoman bowed slightly, smiled sweetly, then turned around to wrap the clothes. Seeing her like this, Hua surprisedly said, "Why did this young lady's attitude change so fast, just like flipping a book? She was so indifferent just now." Yang laughed and said, "Just the way of the world, it's not her fault." "Oh," Hua nodded in a half-understanding way. The 4 pieces of clothing cost a total of 108 yuan. Yang willingly took out the money to pay, while Hua next to her felt heartache. She never thought there would be a day when she would spend 100 yuan on clothes. 108 yuan. It's almost the annual income of the Mu family. After buying the clothes, Yang took Hua to the lingerie counter. Bras have existed since 1914, but they just hadn't been brought to the countryside yet. Yang was already 17 and still wearing the ancient belly band, while Hua hadn't even seen a bra before. Therefore, in the countryside at that time, many women's breasts began to sag prematurely before they were even 30 years old. Although Yang had been paying attention to dietary skincare recently, Hua's breasts were already showing signs of sagging. However, with the help of a bra and the dietary skincare, she would definitely have a perfect bust shape. This was the first time Hua had seen a bra, and she curiously asked, "Yang, what is this?" Chapter 67 Become Stronger. Don't hold your daughter back under Skuan. Seeing Hua like this, Yen whispered a few words in her ear. After Hua understood the purpose of these strange clothes, she promptly blushed and felt uncomfortable all over. "Yang, let's go," she said. Yen laughed and said, "Mom, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. These days, everyone in the city wears these. Not only can they prevent female diseases, but they also prevent sagging breasts." Hua still felt a little uncomfortable. "Everyone in the city wears these?" "Yes." Yen nodded, pulling Hua along. "Mom, you pick a style you like." Hua's face turned as red as a boiled shrimp. "Anyway, it's worn inside, any style will do." Seeing Hua like this, Yen didn't make it difficult for her. She picked 2 styles suitable for young girls and young women, and told the salesperson, "Could we have 2 pieces each of C and D cup in these styles?" The C cups were for her and the D cups were for Hua. So, all of Yen's good genes were inherited from Hua. Of course, the dietary therapy she underwent recently also played a role. Those beauty and health recipes were not consumed for nothing. As a woman herself, envy couldn't be hidden in the sales assistant's eyes when Yen mentioned the sizes. Who would have thought that such a slender girl had such a full-bodied figure, and she was so pretty too? Life is really unfair. 4 pieces for 98 yuan, the salesperson continued. 98 yuan? A small piece of fabric was that expensive? Hua was taken aback, and just as she was about to stop Yen had already paid. Yen noticed Hua's concerns and reassured her in a low voice. "Mom, don't worry. We have money now. We don't have to be as frugal as before. Our future life will be like flowers blooming, getting better every day." Hua looked at Yen's radiant eyes, unconsciously nodding her head. After buying the underwear, Yen also bought Yun several sets of clothes, and finally shoes, head to toe, inside and out, everything was renewed. After leaving the department store, Yen took Hua to visit some grocery stores, buying some daily necessities. In the past, Hua always stayed in the countryside, with little exposure to the world and a narrow worldview. Looking at the bustling and prosperous streets of Beijing, Hua realized how insignificant she had been. Looking at her excellent daughter beside her, Hua secretly decided to be strong in the future and not hold Yen back. After shopping and returning home, it was already past 7 in the evening. There wasn't enough time to cook. So, Yen cooked a large pot of health porridge. The porridge contained shrimps, greens, lean meat, and diced carrots. It was not only delicious but also had the effect of whitening the skin and enhancing the bust. While the porridge simmered in the casserole, Yen made several potato pancakes. After brushing a layer of chili oil on the potato pancake and sprinkling it with sesame and chopped peanuts, the taste of the spicy and fresh pancake paired with the delicious health porridge was simply divine. 3 women effortlessly finished a pot of porridge and more than 10 potato pancakes. The time since Enai Tsuehua and her daughter moved here had probably been the happiest for Enai Qinggui since she lost her husband. In the past, every time she returned from work, she would find cold pots and stoves. So, she didn't want to leave work and didn't want to go home. Now, the thing she looked forward to the most was getting off work every day. Enai Tsuehua and Enai Yen, although not her relatives, made her feel a sense of home. After dinner, Enai Tsuehua showed Enai Qinggui the new clothes they bought on the street today. With such a good daughter as Enai Yang, Enai Tsuehua wished to share her happiness with everyone in the world. Enai Qinggui said with a smile, "These clothes are really beautiful. Not only is your daughter Yang a good cook, she also has a great taste in clothes." Enai Tsuehua reproached, "All she knows is to spend money." Enai Qinggui patted Enai Quihua's back. "With such a sensible daughter, all you have to do is hide under the covers and smile." Hearing this, Enai Tsuehua squinted her eyes in amusement. Yes, in her lifetime, having Enai Yang as her daughter was indeed a blessing. If it weren't for Enai Yang, she would still be struggling in Dam Village. The next day, Enai Yang was back at her stall selling noodles as usual. Unlike other days, there wasn't a long queue in front of the stall today. Only a few scattered people, including Li Gongqing, were standing there. "Xiaoni, you're here?" Upon seeing Enai Yang coming, Li Gongqing greeted her with a smile. "Good morning, Mr. Li." Enai Yang bowed slightly. "Good morning," Li Gongqing continued. "Oh, by the way, Xiaoni, there's something I want to discuss with you." Enai Yang said while tending to the stove, "Please say, Mr. Li." After yesterday's incident, Li Gongqing had completely dispelled his immature thoughts about Enai Yang. He deeply understood that this young girl was not an average person, and not someone a small-timer like him could trifle with. Li Gongqing was mentally preparing how to tactfully explain his intention to Enai Yang. "Well, our family's elderly lady really enjoys your noodles, but as the elderly need a more balanced diet, could you bring some appropriate food for her every morning?" After saying this, Li Gongqing continued, "We can negotiate the price, as long as she likes it." Enai Yang thought for a moment, then said, "Okay, I'll give it a try. It's too late for today, come earlier tomorrow to collect it." Li Gongqing was surprised that Enai Yang agreed so quickly. "Doesn't that mean, Xiaoni, you agree?" It was just yesterday that she refused to be a cook even when Mr. Song offered her a high salary. Why did she agree so quickly today? Li Gongqing thought that Enai Yang was going to negotiate some conditions with him. Enai Yang nodded. "Well, I'll give it a try, but I'm not sure if your elderly lady will like what I make." It's absurd to refuse a chance to make money. After all, making a dish isn't that difficult. Moreover, it's different from a regular 9-to-5 job. Sounds good. Li Gongqing handed Enai Yang a large union. "Erase the deposit." "So it's settled then, Xiaoni. I'll come and collect it tomorrow morning. If the elderly lady likes it," Mr. Song said, "he'll pay you 100 yuan each month. The main point is to let the elderly lady eat well." "Fine." Enai Yang nodded slightly. Li Gongqing continued, "Now, can you make 3 bowls of noodles, as usual?" After saying this, Li Gongqing suddenly realized something was strange and asked, "Did I come too early? Why isn't anyone queuing today?" Enai Yang was also puzzled. Just then, a middle-aged woman who came for noodles arrived. "Boss, make me a bowl of noodles." "Okay." Enai Yang replied. After Enai Yang responded, the middle-aged woman said, "Boss, can the noodles be cheaper? The pickle fish noodles over there are only 2.5 yuan a bowl, while yours are 3 yuan. Chapter 68. Is she playing hard to get? _1 Enai Yang had known all along that after her sour fish noodle soup became popular, imitators would appear. However, she didn't expect them to turn up so quickly. She was watching the middle-aged woman trying to haggle. With a smile, Enai Yang said, "I'm sorry, comrade, this is a small business, I can't lower the price any further." The imitators' pickled fish noodles had just come out and it was also 5 cents cheaper per bowl. Naturally, everyone would choose the newcomer, seeking novelty and cheaper prices. The appearance of the imitator had its pros and cons for Yang. The advantage was that the quality difference would be highlighted only in comparison. Yang was now using a secret recipe for the pickles and the chili. The imitator could never replicate the exact same taste. Yang was still full of confidence in her own skills. The disadvantage was that they had taken over most of her business this morning. Hearing this, the middle-aged woman found a place to sit down and continued, "If the queue wasn't so long over there, I would have eaten there. Make me a bowl first." Yang smiled and said, "All right, please wait a moment." Li Gongqing was looking at Yang, thinking that this girl was getting more and more interesting. Even when her business was being taken away, she was still so calm and collected. Wasn't she worried at all? Though she was just a teenager, she was doing work that many adults couldn't handle. Yang served up the boiled noodles. At this time, a few more customers came to eat noodles. "Little boss, 3 bowls of noodles, please add extra chili and cilantro, no vinegar." "All right, please wait a moment." Yang replied with a smile. Although there weren't as many customers lined up as before, the 5 small tables were never left empty. The customers kept coming and going. After all, quality was something that couldn't be overlooked. Yang still had many loyal old customers. Yang was constantly busy in front of her stall. She was wearing a light blue shirt on the top and black wide-legged pants on the bottom. Although her clothes looked rustic, she was elegantly radiating a classical beauty. Light blue is a very picky color and it won't look good on people with slightly dark skin. Worn poorly, it could even create a reverse effect. Usually, colors complement people, but in Yang's case, it was the person who complemented the color. The light blue seemed to be born specifically for her, making her already fair skin even more nearly translucent. The rising steam blurred her face, rendering her jade-like features vague and elusive, which added to her mysterious beauty, as though she were in a fairyland. A black car was parked not far away, and the man sitting in the car had thin lips tightly pressed, silently watching the scene. He was holding a file in his hand, and his cold face was almost expressionless. After a while, he lightly opened his thin lips and spoke in a low voice. "How long has she been setting up a stall here?" "It's been over a month." The driver Xiao respectfully answered. "Over a month?" Mo Baichuan slightly narrowed his eyes and continued asking, "Has she been setting up a stall and selling noodles for this whole month?" The driver Xiao nodded, "Yes." After he spoke, he added, "According to my investigation, business seems to be quite good. People are lining up every morning. Just don't know what happened this morning." Saying this, Xiao strangely scratched his head. Listening to this, Mo Baichuan didn't say anything. He furrowed his brows tightly, his eyes pitch black, deep as the sea. He prided himself on being adept at reading people, but he just couldn't figure out this Yang. According to the investigation, Yang was never married. Instead, she escaped from Dam Village with her wit and arrived at Beijing. So, did she choose Beijing because of him? From the first time they met, to the second time, and then the third time, was it all part of her plan? The fact that she could make herself comfortable in Beijing implied that she was certainly not an ordinary person. Mo Baichuan's gaze deepened. "By the way, Master, I also found out that Master Song seems quite interested in her too," Xiao added. "Speak." Mo Baichuan pulled a pack of cigarettes from his pocket. After lighting one up and holding it at the corner of his mouth, the thin lips lightly clasping the cigarette, his exhale and inhale was inexplicably sexy. What on earth made Song Baicheng interested in her? The little girl was young, but she was quite capable. Mo Baichuan slowly exhaled a beautiful smoke ring. Xiao carefully chose his words, then continued, "The noodle dish that the old lady recently enjoys the most is bought from Yang. Is it her?" Mo Baichuan was taken aback, a flash of doubt in his eyes. Xiao nodded. Moreover, Master Song tried everything he could to employ Yang at a high salary, but he didn't succeed. I heard from Xiaoli that he even raised the monthly salary to over 50,000. He even let Yang name a price, but none of these moved her. This is interesting. A monthly salary of over 50,000, what does this signify? It signifies instant wealth. Generally speaking, no one can resist such magnificent wealth. A Yang must be selling noodles for the money. So why would she refuse Song Beiqing? Why refuse this enormous wealth? Unless she has set her sights even higher. Isn't there a saying? The most beautiful things often carry deadly poison. Mo Baichuan narrowed his eyes, which were as black and deep as a phoenix's. After a moment, he gently moved his gaze from Ni Yang and said, "Let's go, well go back." After all, Ni Yang is just a woman. No matter how she tried, she couldn't move his mountain. Moreover, Song Beiqing is not a fool. He's experienced in the world of romance. If Ni Yang targeted him, she would only end up empty-handed, losing both her body and heart. However, Mo Baichuan was looking forward to seeing what Ni Yang would do next. For now, he just needs to wait and watch. When the time is right, he will personally strip away her beautiful facade. The car sped fast, raising a cloud of dust. Mo family. 2 elderly women with white hair were sitting in Mo Hudi's room. One was the old lady Mo. The other one was old lady Mo's old friend, old lady Zheng from the Zheng family. The 2 elderly women looked at Mo Hudi lying in bed, their eyes filled with heartache and sadness. Poor Mo Hudi, such a small child, suffered from illness every day, and she had already become a bag of bones. Old lady Zheng asked in a low voice, "Erwin, you mentioned earlier that there's a famous doctor in Jiangnan who might be able to cure Xiaodai's illness. How's it going? Has the doctor come to see her?" Hearing this, old lady Mo sighed. The famous doctor is too arrogant, refusing to treat anyone from the Mo or Yang families. I've already asked a friend to help. We should have news soon. The friend that Lady Mo mentioned was Li Xianxian. Li Xianxian also promised her that she would definitely convince the divine doctor from Jiangnan. Now, all of old Lady Mo's hope was on this rumored divine doctor. Hearing this, old Lady Zheng nodded. At that moment, Mo Hudi slowly woke up on the bed. The first thing she said after opening her eyes was, "Grandma, did Guobao come to see me these days?" Chapter 69 Filial Piety. The daughter who was lost for 33 years because of her long-term illness, Mo Hudi only had one good friend, Yang Guobao. Furthermore, no parent would wish for their child to hang around with a sickly kid. What if their child caught whatever she had? Previously, Yang Guobao would come to see her every few days. But now, if her memory served her, Yang Guobao hadn't come to see her in more than a month. Could it be that Yang Guobao had already? At this thought, Mo Hudi's expression darkened. Grandma Mo continued, "Didn't I tell you? Guobao was taken to the countryside by his mother, and he hasn't returned yet. Will Guobao come back?" Mo Hudi asked again. This question was a bit difficult for Grandma Mo to answer. Yang Guobao had been taken away by Wang Meifeng for over a month now, and they had not received any news. Who could be sure about the situation? Old Lady Zheng interjected, "Haven't the Yang family thought of bringing back Wang Meifeng and her son?" If the daughter-in-law was wrong, that was her problem, but their grandson was still their descendant. Would they just leave him stranded without a care? Grandma Mo said, "Guobao's grandma is also very stubborn. She's still waiting for Wang Meifeng to admit her mistake. If Wang Meifeng doesn't acknowledge it, the Yangs won't actively bring them back." After saying this, Grandma Mo continued, "But this is really Wang Meifeng's fault. She's a college student, yet she was tricked by a teenager. Isn't it laughable?" Old Lady Zheng pondered, "Maybe that young girl has got some skills?" Grandma Mo replied, "Old sister, we've lived for so many years. Have you seen a teenage divine doctor? Especially a female one?" No need to mention several. Even one she had not seen. Moreover, all the historical divine doctors in China were men. When did a little girl become one? Old Lady Zheng laughed. "You're right." The 2 old sisters chatted casually for a while. Mo Hudi lay in her bed, listening. After a while, she fell asleep. Old Lady Zheng held Mo Hudi's hand, her expression difficult to decipher. After a while, she muttered, "If one hadn't lost Tingting back then, perhaps her child would be as old as Xiaodai by now. It's all my fault. I'm useless." Her voice was filled with sadness and regret. Just then, a figure rushed past the door. The figure didn't go far but hid in a corner, listening to the conversation inside. Hearing this, Grandma sighed, comforting, "Aching, it's not your fault about what happened back then. Don't be too hard on yourself. Now you have Lingling, don't you? Lingling is sensible and filial, and she gave you an outstanding granddaughter. It's as if they were your own." Old Lady Zheng croaked, "But Tingting is my daughter, who I carried for 9 months and gave birth to. She was only 3 when she went missing. If she's still alive, she'd be 36 this year. If one weren't so useless as a mother, she could have enjoyed a happy life. But now, I don't even know whether she's alive." Even though Old Lady Zheng had adopted a girl who had children of her own, she couldn't help but miss her biological daughter. After all, she was her own child she carried for 9 months. How could she just forget? "Don't worry, Aching," Grandma Mo patted Old Lady Zheng's hand, comforting. "Tingting was a blessed child. She must be living well now. Maybe it won't be long before you can reunite." Mrs. Zheng was choked up with emotion, her voice barely a whisper. 33 years had passed, and she had never stopped searching for her daughter, but there had been no sign of her to this day. In her heart, Mrs. Zheng had a feeling about what might have happened, but she was unwilling to accept the reality. Mrs. Mo watched Mrs. Zheng, who was drowning in sorrow, without knowing how to comfort her. Only someone who has lost a daughter can truly understand this pain. At this moment, they heard slight footsteps at the door. Then came a knock. Mrs. Zheng quickly wiped the tears from her face. "Come in," said Mrs. Mo. A girl of about 17-18 walked in with a tray. Grandma." Mrs. Mo looked up, her face brightening. "Xianjing has come." "Xianjing." Xianjing. A smile crept onto Mrs. Zheng's face. Even though Xianjing was the child of her adopted daughter Zheng Lingling, Mr. and Mrs. Zheng loved their granddaughter dearly and indulged her in every way. They had even discussed that if they couldn't ever find their biological daughter, they would leave all their legacy to Zheng Xianjing once they passed away. Even if they did find their biological daughter in the future, she would still give half the inheritance to Zheng Xianjing. Moreover, Zheng Xianjing was an excellent student. At only 18, she had already been admitted to a prestigious university and was studying finance and management. "Grandma Mo, one borrowed your kitchen for a bit and made some mung bean soup. This is your bowl, and this is for my grandma." As Xianjing spoke, she handed over the bowls of mung bean soup with both hands to the 2 elderly women. Mrs. Mo joked, "Xianjing, you divided these so clearly, one hope you didn't put something extra in your grandma's bowl to make it taste better than mine?" Xianjing, taken aback, replied, "My grandma has a bit of a headache, so I added a little bit of herbal medicine to her mung bean soup." On hearing this, Mrs. Mo was surprised and said, "Xianjing, did you prepare these 2 bowls of mung bean soup separately?" Zheng Xianjing nodded. "Xianjing, you really are so considerate." Mrs. Mo took Xianjing's hand, nodding in agreement. "Your grandma is so lucky to have a respectful and caring granddaughter like you in this life." Making 2 separate bowls of mung bean soup might seem like a small thing, but the thoughtfulness involved was exceptional. The preparation itself was straightforward, but making them separately would have been quite bothersome. Many biological grandchildren perhaps wouldn't have the patience for such a lavish display of affection. Respectful and caring? On hearing this, a scoffing smile flickered in Xianjing's eyes. She was indeed very affectionate, but all her affection had gone to the dogs. She treated Mrs. Zheng so well, but Mrs. Zheng was still hung up on her biological daughter who had probably been dead for centuries now. Naturally, blood is thicker than water. How could she, a granddaughter born out of an adopted daughter, ever compare to a biological child? A mocking smile crossed Zheng Xianjing's heart, but she didn't let it show as she modestly said, "Grandma Mo, I'm not as good as you say 1 a.m., this is just what any granddaughter should do." Mrs. Zheng looked at her excellent and understanding granddaughter and said, "Xianjing is just like her mother, always respectful and loving ever since she was a child." Upon hearing this, Mrs. Mo nodded in agreement. "Indeed, Lingling is also a respectful child, our Xianjing takes after her mother." Feeling slightly embarrassed, Xianjing said, "Oh, grandmas, you're teasing me again. Please try the mung bean soup." It's refreshing and helps drive out the heat in the summer, and also helps detoxify. Chapter 70. It's not easy for us to have a good life. _1 The taste of the mung bean soup was mediocre. Nevertheless, out of respect for Zheng Xianjing's effort, the two elders gulped down the soup in one go. Grandma, let me wipe your mouth. Zheng Xianjing handed over a clean handkerchief in a timely manner. Elder Lady Mo teased from the side. Indeed, a biological grandmother is a biological grandmother. Look at her, handing bowls and offering handkerchiefs. Me, a stranger, cannot enjoy such a privilege. Biological grandmother? There was a cold sneer in Zheng Xianjing's heart. Elder Lady Zheng never treated her as a biological granddaughter. This appellation was truly ironic. Zheng Xianjing remarked with a smile, Granny Mo, once Xiaodai is better, she will definitely be even more filial than me. Of course, Elder Lady Mo liked hearing this comment. She also firmly believed that Mo Hudi would definitely recover. It had to be said, Zheng Xianjing was indeed a pleasing person. She knew how to win the favor of the elderly. In fact, since the day her mother had informed her that she and Elder Lady Zheng did not share any blood relation, she had started being cautious, afraid of offending these two elders with her words or actions. Therefore, her obedient and considerate behavior over these years was all a facade. Because she had to please these two elders of the Zheng family, only then would she have the chance to inherit everything from the Zheng family. However, today, upon hearing Elder Lady Zheng's words, she felt an unprecedented threat. From Elder Lady Zheng's words, it was not difficult to deduce that all these years they had been searching for that lost biological daughter, it was just that they had never found her. But what if one day they did find her? What would their family do then? Therefore, she must find a way to make the elderly couple of the Zheng family draft their will sooner than later. Otherwise, she would never be able to rest easy. All that the Zheng family owned was hers. Why should she have to give it all away? Thinking of this, a faint light flashed in Zheng Xianjing's eyes. At this moment, the door was pushed open once again. A kind-faced middle-aged woman walked in from outside the door. Mom, Auntie Mo. Lingling is here, Elder Lady Mo greeted with a broad smile. The person who came was none other than Elder Lady Zheng's adopted daughter, Zheng Lingling. As soon as Zheng Lingling arrived, she stood behind Elder Lady Zheng, massaging her shoulders. Elder Lady Mo praised her non-stop, saying how filial Zheng Lingling was. Zheng Xianjing continued, My mom is massaging Grandma. Grandma Mo, let me massage you. I have recently learned a new massage technique. As Zheng Xianjing spoke, she began to massage Elder Lady Mo. Elder Lady Mo was so pleased that her mouth curled up in a smile. This mother-daughter duo massaged the elders quietly, not disturbing their conversation. Elder Lady Mo, under Zheng Xianjing's massage, blissfully closed her eyes. As if suddenly reminded of something, Elder Lady Zheng asked, Erwin, how has your sixth child been lately? At these words, a glint of light flashed across Zheng Xianjing's usually tranquil gaze. Elder Lady Mo closed her eyes and said disappointedly, Still the same, entirely useless. Elder Lady Zheng let out a sigh. All your children are so talented, it's just the sixth one who has turned out to be utterly good for nothing? Elder Lady Mo had a total of 6 children. 5 sons and 1 daughter. The sixth one mentioned by Elder Lady Zheng was Elder Lady Mo's youngest son, and also the son causing her the most worry. Each of the other 5 children of the Mo family, including grandson Mo Baichuan, were influential figures in Beijing. This 6th child, he is the least impressive of the Mo family. He never went to college. Never held a job. Even now, he's still an idle drifter. He basically just eats and waits for death, wandering around, often not returning home for several months, even a year. Because of this, he's become a joke among the aristocratic circles in Beijing. Ugh, don't even mention him. Lady Mo sighed irritably. That boy is such a headache. Lady Zheng patted Lady Mo's hand, consoling her, Don't worry too much about it, everyone grows and develops at their own pace. Forget it, muttered Lady Mo scornfully. I've given up on hoping he'll make anything of himself in my lifetime. Mrs. Zheng glanced at her daughter's expressions quietly. She has been observing for a while now. Each time they mentioned this disrespectful sixth child of the Mo family, her daughter, Xianxia, seems a bit off. Although this good-for-nothing sixth child of Mo family doesn't possess much talent, he is indeed blessed with good looks. It couldn't be her daughter has taken a liking to the worthless sixth of Mo family? Zheng Lingling faintly felt worried. Her daughter should aim to marry someone of Song Biqing's or Mo Baichuan status, not end up with the incompetent sixth of Mo family. No way. She had to banish this absurd idea from her daughter's mind immediately. Therefore, during lunch, Zheng Lingling finally found a chance to talk to her daughter privately. Xianjing, Zheng Lingling called out to Zheng Xianjing. What's the matter, Mom? Zheng Xianjing turned back. With a hushed voice, Zheng Lingling asked, Your mom wants to know, have you fallen for the sixth of Mo family? Zheng Xianjing replied a bit awkwardly, No. No. Zheng Lingling narrowed her eyes. Xianjing, you're my daughter. I can tell what you're thinking. Listen to me, you must quit this absurd idea right now. If you have time, put in more efforts towards Song Beiqing or Mo Baichuan. Either one of them would be 1,000 times better than that sixth of Mo family. Finishing her words, Zheng Lingling continued sincerely, Xianjing, your mother struggled to make a life like this. I hope you can always stay on top of the world. That sixth of Mo family, all he knows is to ask for money from his family. What can he possibly provide you? Zheng Xianjing obediently nodded her head. Okay, one understand. Of course, she wants to stay on top. In fact, she wants to be at the very top. It's just that there are certain things she doesn't feel comfortable discussing with her mother. Just when Zheng Lingling was about to say something else, Zheng Xianjing preempted her. Oh Mom, I heard something today. What was it? Zheng Lingling quickly asked. Zheng Xianjing continued. I heard that old woman has been secretly looking for her biological daughter for years. I'm worried, Zheng Lingling frowned severely. Those two troublemakers. I've been nothing but good to them, and they still treat us as outsiders. Xianjing, don't worry. As long as your mom's here, one won't let anyone take anything that belongs to us. With her mother's very promise, Zheng Xianjing felt relieved. Over on Yurdist Road's morning market. Probably because the market was not bustling today, Yang only managed to sell all of her 500 bowls of noodles around noon. After cleaning up her stall, she rode her bicycle to the vegetable market. On the way, she conveniently passed by the newly opened sour fish stall. It was approaching lunchtime. Not only was the place filled with noodle eaters, but there was also a long queue forming. But what surprised her more was the owner of this stall. The person wasn't someone else. It was Zhu Yonghong's mother, Sun Chuanxiang, who was arrested a month ago. With Zhu Yonghong still in jail, Sun Chuanxiang had a middle-aged man helping her who bore a look similar to Zhu Yonghong. She assumed that this man was Zhu Yonghong's father. What an interesting family. The daughter hires thugs to destroy the competition, while the parents directly turn into copiers. When she noticed that Yang passed by this place, Sun Chuanxiang kept her head high and called out with a triumph in her voice. Come on everybody, delicious pickled fish noodles. Just 0.25 yuan a bowl. Only 0.25 yuan a bowl. Chapter 71 Encounter Again. First subscription, 10,000 words chapter, Seeking Support. Sun Chuanxiang was deliberately flaunting in front of Yang. Isn't it just a bowl of pickled fish noodles? Who can't make that? Yang is just a lowly wench. Previously, not only did she steal their business, she even caused her daughter to get arrested. It didn't matter that Zhu Yonghong was taken in, what mattered was it affected her son who was in college. Now, her son has been forced to suspend school and is under investigation at home. She had no idea when her son could return to campus. Their family had been farmers for 3 generations, never producing anyone successful. They finally had a golden phoenix, only to be ruined by Yang, that wench. If it weren't for Yang, would such a disaster have happened? For a moment, Sun Chuanxiang wished she could bite Yang to death. However, she has now taken her revenge, successfully taking away all of Yang's customers. It was obvious that Yang hadn't sold a single bowl of noodles this morning. Yang can still smile now. But she's probably going to cry tomorrow morning. Cheap hussy, serves you right. Thinking about it, Sun Chuanxiang became even more self-satisfied. Ai Yang appeared unaffected, ignoring Sun Chuanxiang. It wasn't pride, but rather that the taste of Sun Chengxiang's pickled fish stank. Even if sold cheaply, it wouldn't keep many customers, except for a few bargain hunters. Those who truly care about taste won't be returning customers. After all, whether it's the pickling of the fish, the chili, or even the sour vegetable in Ai Yang's pickled fish noodles, there's a secret recipe involved. Sun Chuanxiang was simply running out of tricks. Why should she lower herself to the same level as such people? As it turns out, she should really be thanking Sun Chuanxiang. After all, only the inferior can highlight the superior. Isn't there an old saying? Often imitated, never surpassed. Ai Yang arrived at the vegetable market, bought some vegetables, meat, fruits, and about a dozen fish, tied them all on the bike, and just as she was about to ride back, she saw some trendy young men and women, each holding a can of Jianlibo energy drink. Jianlibo is a kind of soft drink unique to this era. Soft drink? Ai Yang thought for a moment and suddenly had an idea. At this time, a bottle of Jianlibo was quite expensive and most families couldn't afford it. However, an iced Jianlibo did have a great effect on beating the heat. Now it was summer. Many customers would be sweating and wanting to quench their thirst after eating halfway through a bowl of pickled fish noodles. Customers who spend 30 cents for a bowl of noodles certainly won't spend over 1 yuan for Jianlibo or Dabaishe fruit-flavored carbonated drinks to quench their thirst. So, she could use other beverages instead of a carbonated drink. As long as it tastes good, sells at a cheap price, and matches well with pickled vegetable noodles, it will surely sell well. Ai Yang's eyes narrowed, a glint of light sparkling beneath them as she immediately turned her bike around and headed the other way. On the way, she passed Li Dongliang's shop. Li Wei was away at school. The people in the shop today were Li Dongliang and his wife, Qian Jinfeng. The couple was chatting about something at the shop's entrance. Seeing Ai Yang riding over, Li Dongliang greeted her with a smile. Yang, how come you're back again? He noticed some fresh grass carp hanging on the back of Ai Yang's bike. Could it be that this girl's business was really that good? That doesn't seem right. A young girl like her, how can she possibly cook something delicious? Moreover, it's fish, something everyone dislikes. Perhaps she was just making it seem like her business was good to avoid being made fun of. But what's the purpose of her doing this? Li Dongliang narrowed his eyes as his gaze swept over Ai Yang's face. Although Ai Yang was illiterate and quite plainly dressed, there was no denying that her face was truly striking. He had seen many people while doing business every day, but he had never seen anyone as beautiful as Ai Yang. Could it be? Li Dongliang suddenly thought of his son, Li Wei. His son was quite good-looking, and not only was he a high school student, he would be a college student in the future. His future was limitless. Li Dongliang realized it all of a sudden. Ai Yang's ambitions were indeed high, daring to set her sights on his son. Thinking about it, when Li Dongliang looked at Ai Yang, there was caution in his eyes. His son was so accomplished, he did not have to worry about finding a good wife in the future. Moreover, it said that marriages should be matched in social and economic status. Someone like Ai Yang, trying to marry up, was not suitable for his son at all. Chapter 72 Encounter Again, First Order, 10,000 Words Chapter, Ask for Support, _2. His son deserved a better girl, perhaps in the future, he could even marry a CEO's daughter. Ai Yan could not have imagined that Li Dongliang had such thoughts. She still replied with a heartful smile, "Hello, uncle and auntie, I'm going to buy some stuff from the pharmacy." Going to the pharmacy? If she was really going to the pharmacy, why didn't she stop there on her way? Why is she coming back instead? She must be up to some shifty business. A touch of ridicule flashed in Li Dongliang's eyes. Ai Yan was cycling very fast, and in a blink of an eye she slipped past the couple. Qian Jinfeng curiously asked, "Hey, is that young girl the Ai Yan you've mentioned before?" She's quite polite, not at all like a girl from the countryside. People just arrived from the countryside are normally very shy, restrained, and humble, but Qian Jinfeng only saw confidence in Ai Yan's demeanor. And she was very beautiful. Even though it was just a passing glance, Ni Yen had already impressed Qian Jinfeng. Li Dongliang snorted, "That little girl has big plans." Qian Jinfeng was taken aback. "What do you mean?" Li Dongliang then told Qian Jinfeng what he was thinking. After hearing it, Qian Jinfeng's face was full of astonishment. "Li, I think your analysis makes sense. But don't worry, our Xiaowei is not that shallow. He's a sensible boy. Even if Ni Yen has a little trick up her sleeve, Xiaowei won't fall for her." Li Dongliang nodded his head. Qian Jinfeng sighed. "I really didn't expect that young girl to be like this. What on earth was her parents' upbringing? Such a failure. Fortunately, our Xiaowei isn't like that." Ni Yen arrived at the pharmacy. She parked her bike at the entrance. It was the critical period of Western medicine's prevalence and the decline of traditional Chinese medicine, so there were no other customers in the traditional Chinese medicine store except the salesperson. The salesperson greeted enthusiastically when he saw someone entering. "Hello, comrade, what can I help you with?" Ni Yen smiled and replied, "Could you please get me a kilo of dark plum, a kilo of hawthorn, a kilo of dried tangerine peel, a kilo of licorice, and a kilo of roselle flower?" People usually purchase traditional Chinese medicine by grams, yet this young girl requested kilos. The salesperson was stunned for a moment, then asked, "Young comrade, are you sure you want a kilo of each item? Instead of 10 grams? Ni Yen nodded. "Yes, how much is it?" "I'll pay first." "Wait a moment, let me calculate." The salesperson picked up his abacus and started calculating. Ni Yen glanced at the price list on the wall, then said, 5 kilos of medicine should cost 2 yuan, 4 cents, and 3 mils. After saying that, Ni Yen took out the change from her pocket and placed it on the counter. 2 yuan, 4 cents, and 3 mils? Could this young girl calculate so accurately? She must be guessing, right? The salesperson continued to operate his abacus suspiciously without looking up at Ni Yen. However, a moment later, the salesperson was amazed at Ni Yen's ability to calculate to the penny accurately when he saw the result on his abacus. This young girl was indeed remarkable. She calculated the exact amount right down to the penny. The salesperson collected the money on the counter, weighed the medicine and handed it to Ni Yen, then asked curiously, "Young comrade, what do you need all this medicine for?" Besides, these medicines can't cure diseases. They can only be used as adjuvants in usual practice. Ni Yen smiled and said, "Actually, it's not really medicine. I'm using it to make a drink." "These medicines can be used to make a drink?" The salesperson was surprised. Ni Yen nodded. After buying the main ingredients for sour plum soup, Ni Yen went to the store again to buy some rock sugar and dried osmanthus flowers. It wasn't until 2 o'clock in the afternoon that Ni Yen returned home. Ni Zuihua had been waiting at the doorstep. Seeing Ni Yen cycling back, Ni Zuihua immediately went to meet her. "Yang, why are you so late today?" Ni Yen usually got home around 12 o'clock. Ni Zuihua was so worried that Ni Yen could have met with some accidents. Ni Yen smiled mysteriously. "I bought some interesting things." "What interesting things?" Knowing her daughter's mischievous nature, Ni Zuihua couldn't help but be a bit curious. Ni Yen continued to maintain her mystery. "You'll know tonight. By the way, where's Yun Yun?" Ni Zuihua laughed. "Yun Yun is sleeping. I've left you some food in the pot. You should go and eat first. I'll tidy up these things for you." Chapter 73 Encounter Again. First Order, 10,000 words chapter, Ask for Support, _3. Ni Yang was already hungry. "I will go to eat first then. Thank you for your hard work." "Go ahead." Ni Zuihua watched Ni Yang with a pleasant smile. The midday meal was good, 2 dishes and a soup. Stir-fried pork with green peppers, cold cucumber salad, and tomato and egg soup. After eating and drinking heartily, Ni Yang arrived at the kitchen. In the kitchen, Ni Zuihua was already busy slicing fish and making fish bone soup. Ni Yang took out the 5 packets of medicinal herbs she had bought, then found a flat-bottomed pot, in which she put crystal sugar, dark plum, hawthorn, tangerine peel, and osmanthus flower according to proportion, added plenty of water, first brought it to a boil on high heat, then simmered it on low heat. As soon as the water began to boil, a refreshing sweet and sour aroma wafted into the air, incredibly enticing. While slicing fish, Enai asked, Yang, is this the good stuff you were talking about? Enai nodded, yes, it's this. Enai continued to ask, what is this? Enai lifted the lid off the flat-bottomed pot, only to see that the previously clear water had turned purple. Mom, this is called sour plum soup. It can eliminate greasiness, invigorate the spleen, and stimulate the appetite. In fact, the effects of sour plum soup go far beyond these. It has the ability to dissipate qi and resolve stasis, generate saliva to quench thirst, consolidate lung energy, relieve anxiety, and calm the mind. Regular consumption can eliminate diseases and strengthen the body, making it a valuable health drink in hot summer. Can we drink this? Enai asked, sniffling at the seemingly good smell. Enai slowly nodded. It's best to simmer the sour plum soup over low heat for 30 minutes. Then stew it for another 30 minutes to enhance the flavor. After turning off the heat, Enai went back to the yard to marinate the pickles with the greens that Enai had washed and put into the pickling jar. Marinating pickles is quite time-consuming, so Enai was busy until late in the afternoon to marinate all the vegetables. By this time, the sour plum soup had also finished stewing. Enai poured the finished sour plum soup into the glass bottles she had bought a few days ago, then hung those bottles in the well to chill for a while. At dinner time, they could enjoy the sour and sweet sour plum soup. Enai was very much looking forward to the finished sour plum soup. After finishing all the chores at home, Enai said goodbye to Enai and walked towards the river with her bucket. She had set a fish trap in the river but hadn't checked it for 2 days, so there should be quite a lot of fish now. Along the way, Enai met quite a few enthusiastic villagers. After some time of getting to know each other, those who had originally had issues with Enai had changed their minds quite a bit. Firstly, because of the children's propaganda. Secondly, due to the fact that Enai was always smiling and greeting everyone kindly, regardless of who she met. Frankly, who doesn't like a beautiful and polite girl? Stop! At this moment, an arm suddenly appeared in front of Enai, blocking her path. Enai looked up slightly and saw the person standing in front of her was Wang Xiaohong, whom she hadn't seen for days. May I help you? Enai raised an eyebrow slightly. Wang Xiaohong looked at Enai, crossed her arms over her chest, and addressed her with an accomplished smile. Outlander, dare to come with me? What's the deal with this Wang Xiaohong? She couldn't beat her physically, nor could she outtalk her, yet she insisted on making her presence felt in front of her from time to time. Enai initially didn't want to bother with her, but then she thought that it would be annoying to have Wang Xiaohong prancing around her all the time, so she had to figure out a once-and-for-all solution to save herself the annoyance of seeing Wang Xiaohong. Take the lead then. Enai spoke calmly. Follow me. Wang Xiaohong turned around with a smile. Originally, she was wondering what she could do to make Enai obediently come with her. Surprisingly, Enai was so cooperative this time. It's like rushing to get herself killed. What a cheeky minx. Last time she dared to treat her like that, this time she'd show her who's boss. Wang Xiaohong directly led Enai to a dense forest. The forest was large, with towering trees blocking the strong sunlight, making it shady and a bit chilly inside. Here and there you could see a lonely tomb, making one feel creepy even in the hot summer. Mandatory cremation wasn't in effect at this time. When people died, they were generally buried on hillsides or in forests. Not far ahead, at the edge of a gravesite, 5 or 6 reckless teens gathered together. Seeing Wang Xiaohong walking over with Enai, one of them quickly threw away his cigarette, instantly becoming alert. They're here, they're here. Upon hearing this, the others also turned their attention to Wang Xiaohong and Enai, their eyes radiating hostility. Chapter 74 Encounter Again. First subscription, 10,000 words chapter, seeking support, _4. They gazed at the young girl approaching them, their eyes filled with astonishment. They had always thought that Wang Xiaohong was pretty enough, but this girl cornered the market. Wang Xiaohong paled in comparison. It was no surprise that Wang Xiuhong was jealous and resentful towards her. A woman's jealousy can indeed be terrifying. Brotherly. Seeing these people, Wang Xiuhong stepped forward with a beaming smile and took the initiative to wrap her arm around one of the men. Why are you so late? The man referred to as Brotherly leaned down to give Wang Xiuhong a kiss on the cheek. At this time, public displays of affection were strictly prohibited, and anyone witnessing Wang Xiuhong and Brother Li's intimate exchange would no doubt report them for lewd behavior. But this was in the countryside, in an isolated small grove. Who cared about such triviality? Wang Xiuhong gave a giggle, then shot Yang a glance and pleaded sweetly, "Brotherly, it's her. She bullied me last time." Yang slightly raised her eyebrows. She had been wondering how Wang Xiuhong suddenly grew so brave, considering she typically avoided her. Evidently, Wang Xiuhong had found herself a protector. "You're Yang, right?" Brotherly lit a cigarette, his eyes glinting maliciously. Yang nodded gently, replying softly, "Yes, that's me." Her demeanor was relaxed, even carrying a hint of a smile. There was a touch of unruliness, and the overwhelming cold elegance in her eyes made it clear she didn't consider these people a threat. Wang Xiuhong leaned comfortably against Brother Li's chest, her face lit up with a triumphant smile. "Brother Li, last time she bullied me so much, this time you must help me get justice." When she finished speaking, Wang Xiuhong glared at Yang with a malicious glow in her eyes. The grove was surrounded by farmland on all sides, rarely visited by outsiders. If anything were to happen here today, Yang would have no one to call for help. Upon hearing Wang Xiuhong's words, Yang smiled, "Using your body to seek revenge on me, Wang Xiuhong, that's all you are capable of." "You!" Wang Xiuhong clenched her teeth, her hands repeatedly clenching and unclenching. The anger on her face faded, replaced by feigned embarrassment. She looked up at Brother Li and whined, "Brother Li, look at her. Even in your presence, she still dares to act so brazenly." Brother Li glanced at his sidekicks and they immediately understood, swiftly moving forward to surround Yang. The 5 men towered over Yang, who was petite and alone among them, creating an air of helplessness. Wang Xiuhong watched Yang, her eyes sparkling with satisfaction. With these 5 men here, Yang would be torn apart even if she didn't die. After today, Yang wouldn't have the face to stay in Jinghua village anymore. Did Yang think herself too high and mighty? Today, Wang Xiuhong planned to trample that arrogance underfoot and let Yang taste the humiliations she had suffered. This thought was immensely pleasing to Wang Xiuhong, and she couldn't help but smirk. "Little sister, you're quite attractive." One of the minions smirked sleazily as he reached out to touch Yang's chin with his coarse hand. Yang stood in the middle of the 5 men, a ray of sunlight shining through the gaps of the leaves onto her skin, making her appear even more coldly beautiful. So beautiful, yet touched with a glacial coldness. Looking at Yang, Wang Xiuhong scoffed. What was Yang trying to pull, acting so arrogant at a time like this? Just wait, she wouldn't be able to keep it up for much longer. Just as the minion's hand was poised to touch Yang, she reached up and grabbed his descending wrist. With a sudden crack, the sound of bones shattering filled the air, followed by a cry of agony. The once boastful ruffian was now clutching his broken hand, his face twisted in pain as he curled up on the ground. No one knew how much force Yang used, but his hand was useless now. The remaining thugs retreated a step, shocked by the spectacle. However, they quickly regained their senses, looked at each other, and lunged at Yang, clearly intending to fight for real this time. Wang Xiuhong watched in wide-eyed shock, her heart pounding in her throat. No matter how good Yang was at fighting, she couldn't possibly take on 4 men. What had just happened was an anomaly. Chapter 75 Encounter Again. First subscription, 10,000 words chapter, seeking support, _5. Yang just stood there, her left hand squeezing her right, and her right pinching her left, the knuckles making cracking sounds. Facing the 4 individuals rushing towards her, her face didn't reveal even a hint of nervousness. She kicked out with a neat backspin kick, then sprung into the air, her toes landing on a thick tree trunk for leverage. Finally her toes rotated, landing squarely on the backs of the gangsters. The scene was thrilling, just like in an action film. Bam bam bam. All 4 thugs were knocked to the ground, with one of them tumbling directly onto Wang Xiuhong and another man. The 2 of them failed to dodge in time, ending up falling to the ground as well. All, Wang Xiahong's painful groan echoed in the air. "Who gave you the guts to mess with me?" Anai Yang demanded, stepping on the other man's hand. The man's voice trembled as he glanced towards Wang Xiuhong. It was her. It was Wang Xiuhong. "We had nothing to do with this." Although Anai Yang was exceptionally beautiful at that moment, she seemed like a devil to him. A devil that had crawled out of hell. Wang Xiuhong bit her lip tightly, sweat beading on her forehead, her eyes filled with defiance. This useless jerk. He was so vigorous in bed, how come he can't even beat a woman now? And it was 5 against 1 at that. Well, instead of humiliating Anai Yang, they ended up humiliating themselves. Anai Yang towered over Wang Xiuhong, extending a slender finger to lift her chin, forcing Wang Xiuhong to meet her gaze. Her lips moved. "Wang Xiuhong, what did one tell you last time?" Anai Yang was clearly smiling, but Wang Xiuhong couldn't detect any warmth in her smile. Wang Xiuhong kept her lips tightly shut, refusing to say a word or beg for mercy. Anai Yang smiled sweetly, instantly lighting up everything around her. With a light tone, she said, "If you have forgotten, let me help you remember." As she finished speaking, she moved her hand to Wang Xiahong's neck and effortlessly lifted her off the ground. Wang Xiahong's toes began to inch off the ground, her neck felt as if it was breaking, her breathing became increasingly difficult. Due to the lack of oxygen, her face turned red and strange sounds were coming from her throat. For the first time, Wang Xiuhong felt incredibly close to death. It seemed she would perish in the next moment. Terror seized her. She didn't want to die. She was still so young. Her legs floundered in midair, her hands desperately grasping Anai Yang's wrist. Wang Xiuhong was truly terrified. Anai Yang, all smiles, looked at Wang Xiuhong calmly. "Do you wish to live or to die?" she asked gently. Wang Xiuhong stared at Anai Yang with wide eyes, pleading evident in her gaze. From the strange sound she was making, it could be vaguely made out that she was saying, "Life? I want to live." Anai Yang held Wang Xiuhong in one hand effortlessly, standing tall like a queen looking down at all beings, invoking fear. The others were so scared they were shaking. Oh God! Had they just messed with the king of hell? The other man sneakily glanced at Anai Yang, realizing that she was not paying him any attention. He quickly scrambled up and bolted away. Seeing their leader flee, the others cared not about anything else and followed suit, fleeing in abject terror. Anai Yang didn't bother chasing after them. She glanced at Wang Xiuhong dangling from her hand and asked, "Will you still dare to mess with me next time?" At this point, Wang Xiuhong could not utter a word, only shaking her head vigorously. She wanted to live. She would never dare to provoke Anai Yang again. If she could go back in time, she believed she would never allow such a foolish thing to happen. Seeing remorse plastered all over Wang Xiahong's face, Anai Yang finally released her grip. Thud! Wang Xiuhong tumbled to the ground, bereft of strength. She was gasping for fresh air. The feeling of being alive was wonderful. The ability to breathe freely felt marvelous. At this point, the sun had started to set, and the woods echoed with the hooting of owls. The hoots of owls sounded like human laughter, strangely eerie, making one's hair stand on end. Because some said that such sounds were the cries of ghosts. It was highly unpropitious in rural areas. However, Anai Yang was not intimidated by these sounds. She brushed her hands off, cast a glance at Wang Xiuhong sprawled on the ground, and elegantly walked away from the woods, step by step. Chapter 76 Encounter Again. First subscription, 10,000 words chapter, seeking support, _6. After Anai Yang left, Wang Xiuhong was the only one remaining in the gloomy grove. The sun was setting. The grove grew steadily darker, scarcely visible was the phosphorus fire spewing from the graves at the edge. Phosphorus fire is also known as ghost fire. As Wang Xiahong's vitality gradually recovered, The tranquility of the grove during the day was replaced by an incredibly horrific scene. Dreadful ghost cries, drifting ghost fire, dim light, and the intermittent graves all tormented Wang Xiahong's senses. Wang Xiahong is not an Yang. Even though she can be capricious and malicious, she is just a 17-year-old girl. She has never experienced such horrors before. At that moment, she was so terrified that her face turned pale. She tightly embraced her head, crying out, "Don't come near me, mum, Dad. Please come to save me." Regrettably, the only response in the grove were the ghastly ghost cries. Yang arrived at the river bank, her face relaxed. She greeted passers-by who were working in the field with a sweet and bright smile. Who could associate her with the demon-like person in the grove just a while ago? Yang stood by the river bank, rolled up her trouser legs, revealing her fair-skinned leg. Her feet were beautiful, small and exquisite. Her glossy and transparent nails were like rows of small seashells, faintly presenting a soft pink hue, delicate as a piece of art. A slim figure approached from across the river, and saw such a scenario. The girl was partially rolling up her trousers, stepping into the river one step at a time. Every step she took was steady. The sunset was projecting on the river's surface, reflecting a golden sheen, forming a beautiful picture with her. Even with just her back view, it made one's imagination run wild. If she turned back and smiled at him now, what kind of ripple would it create? The man was taken by surprise and just stood there, nearly mesmerized. Isn't this the same girl he saw at the mall last time? Didn't expect to encounter her so soon again. Just then, it occurred to him, could she possibly be attempting suicide by jumping into the river? At that thought, the man's eyes narrowed. He unfastened his jacket, threw it on the ground, and dashed towards the river. When Yang was hoisted from behind, she was baffled as if pierced by an unexpected force, causing her to instinctively grab the collar of the man's white shirt. Simultaneously, a scent of men's cologne penetrated her nostrils, a refreshing and crisp fragrance. Yang looked up at the man. In her sight was a face with well-defined features, thin lips, sharp eyebrows and eyes. Although the cold and stern look was also filled with gentleness. He was quite handsome. And somewhat familiar. Somehow, upon seeing this face, Yang thought of Mo Baichuan, the hooligan. However, this face was obviously much more composed than Mo Baichuan's. Yang firmly grasped his collar, scolding, "What are you doing? Are you trying to play a pervert in broad daylight? Let me down." The man's expression was incredibly tense. He didn't speak a word. Clutching the person in his arms, he strode towards the shore. "Let me go." Yang struggled incessantly. Alas, his arm was as if it were cast onto her. Regardless of how much she struggled, he remained unmoved. Yang was skilled. Even the robust Mo Baichuan was knocked down by her. She didn't expect to lose against a man today. Yang was furious. She reached out to pinch his neck, yelling, "Smelly rascal! Let go of me now." But the man remained silent, carrying Yang with both fast and steady steps. When he glanced at the girl's angry face, he couldn't help but frown slightly. Such a pretty girl, with a good figure, why would she want to take her own life? Yang, in fury and unable to struggle, bit onto his collarbone. Immediately, a mix of salty and sweet taste filled her mouth, while a trace of blood stained his white shirt. Yet the man had no intention of letting go, holding on to Yang until he reached the shore. Only then did he release her. But, to prevent her from jumping into the river again, he firmly restricted her wrist, saying sternly, "Are you crazy? Is that how you treat your savior? Let go of me." Yang jolted his hand away. "Are you sick? Who asked you to save me?" However, his hand seemed to be stuck to her wrist. She couldn't free herself. Chapter 77 Encounter Again. First subscription, 10,000 words chapter, seeking support. Understand, I won't let go. The man looked at her, adding, "Unless you promise me you won't try to kill yourself." Yang let out a deep breath, trying her best to calm down. "Who told you one was attempting suicide?" The man loosened his tie at the neck, speaking somberly. "Just now you were heading towards the river. If that's not attempting suicide, then what is? If I weren't there, you'd be an anonymous drowned corpse by now. He saved her. And she, for her part, had returned his favor with hostility. Seeing that you are quite pretty, what could have possibly driven you to consider jumping into the river? After all this time, it turned out he thought she was about to jump into the river. And Yang looked up at the man, explaining, one was just going to fetch a lobster trap from the river, not jumping in. We shouldn't be touching, can you let go of me now? The man still firmly held Yang's hand, skeptical. Are you sure you weren't going to jump in? Yang nodded earnestly. Why would I want to end my life when I'm living just fine? Then swear on it. The man clearly didn't believe Yang's words. Left with no choice, Yang raised 3 fingers, sincerely saying, one swear. Seeing Yang like this, the man reluctantly believed her. Once I let you go, you'd better not lie to me. Sure. Yang nodded slightly. The man loosely let go of her, Yang instantly pulled her hand back. Her skin was naturally fair and would turn red easily just by touching it. The man's firm squeeze just now had left 5 distinctive finger marks on her wrist, alarmingly red. The man also noticed the abnormality on her wrist, promptly apologizing. I'm sorry, is your wrist all right? It's fine. Yang looked up slightly. You meant well. What Yang didn't expect was her gaze landed on the man's chest. A bright red bloodstain contrasted sharply on his white shirt, making a striking scene. Seeing this, Yang felt somewhat flustered. She seemingly acted too impulsively just now and had bitten too hard. The man seemed to see through her thoughts, casually saying, I'm fine. It's just a superficial wound and it doesn't hurt at all, a minor issue. I was too impulsive just now, otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. In his words, the man fully demonstrated a man's grace, taking all the blame on himself. This rather embarrassed Yang because, after all, he was the one who got injured, and she was the one who bit him. None of this would have happened if she hadn't gotten overly emotional. Let me see how deep the wound is. Yang walked to his side and began to unfasten his metal buttons. Her slender fingers, white as jade, rapidly wound around his collar. Soon, 3 buttons were undone. With them so close, he could see her exquisitely chiseled face if he just looked down. From his perspective, her long fan-like eyelashes flickered, their fluttering leaving a gentle trace of softness in his heart, stirring ripples. Next was her high-raised nose, lips as red as fiery flames, and skin as milky as cream. Even though her makeup wasn't applied, she was still bewitchingly beautiful. He was completely taut, not daring move an inch. Although he was a man in his late 20s, he felt as innocent in front of her as a boy at the brink of adolescence. Yang took a look. The wound seemed rather deep. This was a problem. Yang furrowed her brows slightly. There are over 1,000 kinds of bacteria in the human mouth. Being bitten by a human can cause infections, which can lead to serious consequences if not dealt with promptly. It could even put someone's life in danger. Go back with me. Yang lifted her eyes to look at the man, continuing, you need to disinfect this wound with iodine, or else it might get infected. Only then did the man react, fastening his buttons as he said, it's only a bite mark, you don't have to go to such trouble. It's no trouble, just a quick disinfection. Yang lifted her hand and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a little disinfection for some peace of mind. If the man was to leave just like this, Yang would undoubtedly still be worried. Being a doctor, she understood the seriousness of the situation. Okay. The man nodded, as long as you don't find it bothersome. Sure. Yang nodded slightly, please wait for me a moment. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.